moderator to preside at the meeting. Do I have a motion? I make a motion to elect Bill Curtis. That's seconded. All in favor? Opposed? Thank you, Mr. Curtis. I also need to elect a deputy moderator for the other room to preside at the meeting. Do I have that motion?
I make a motion, carry.
That's supported. Laura. All in favor? Okay, we're electing a moderator for this room and a moderator for the other room. Bill Curtis is nominated for this room and the second and approved. The deputy moderator nominating Eric Carey. That was seconded. The vote now is for Eric Carey to moderate the other room. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Mr. Tracy, to the administrative the oath, please.
Do swear that I will support the Constitution
I will support the Constitution
of the United States.
I'm sorry, they can hear in the other room, so we're all actually
Thank you. We should be able to get everybody up. So long as I shall continue
so long as I shall continue a citizen thereof, so help me God.
I do swear
I do swear that
I will discharge to the best of my abilities
I will discharge to the best of my ability
the duties incumbent upon me
the duties incumbent upon me
as moderator of this
as
meeting
this meeting,
according to the Constitution of the laws of the state.
Constitution of the United States, so help me God.
Just do this. Can you moderate? Quickly, we will go together. I, Eric Carey, do swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States
I will support the Constitution of the United States,
so long as I shall continue
so long as I shall continue
a citizen thereof.
a citizen thereof, so help me God.
I do swear
I do swear
that I will discharge to the best of my ability
I will discharge to the best of my abilities
the duties incumbent upon me
the duties incumbent upon me
as deputy moderator
as deputy moderator
of this meeting
of this meeting,
according to the Constitution
according to the Constitution
and laws of the state.
and laws of the state, so help me God.
Here's the moderator for the oath, administer the oath of office to the ballot.
Would the ballot clerks please make their way forward here? Both here and we're going to do the ballot clerks in there separately?
Yeah.
Okay. I need two here. I'm going to hang on. Each of you take one. I'm going to hang on. I'll give you one. Yeah. All right. Happy to meet you. Welcome to SAD 74 budget meeting. Please be aware, as you are, that things are different. We'll make every attempt to make our way through this meeting as close as we can to the rules and the regulations that are at our disposal. I want to read a couple of things here to you, and then I want to, before I get into the meat of the business meeting, to be read by the moderator pursuant to Governor Mills' recent executive order allowing for traditional town meetings with limits of up to 50 persons per gathering space, and following the guidance from the Maine CDC, I hereby request: A, that unless you are already living in the same household, that you maintain a distance of 6 feet. B, respect the request that made by staff to use proper receptacles for collection of paper ballots, paper materials, I'm sorry. C, follow all entry, exit, and pedestrian traffic flow signs. D, respect floor tape spacing at microphones and bathrooms. E, use the disinfectant wipes, hand sanitizer, and face mask as you deem appropriate. F, we encourage public participation. Please do not touch the microphone when speaking. G, please know that the public access digital link is provided for anyone who cannot be here today. And the school board and myself thank you for your patience while we do our best to have this important open public meeting and meet all the requirements and the technology that's here today. I want to share one little story with you. The last town meeting that I did was March 14, just before this whole thing broke loose. It was in a small town in a small gym like this, and behind me there was an open door, and that was their storage area. And I noticed this gentleman picked up a chair and he sat right in the doorway, so I turned to see what he was protecting, and it was rolls and rolls and rolls of toilet paper. And he was protecting that, and nobody was going to get out of there with a load of toilet paper. So we've come a long ways in the last few months, and it doesn't appear that it's going to get any better right off quick. But because of the situation that we find ourselves in, not only in the town, but schools and towns, but the state and the country and the world. So I appreciate your patience with me. We'll work through this as cleanly as we can. We may end up making a few adjustments. It may not be just exactly the way it should be, but sometimes we have to do that. I will use the moderator's manual produced by the Maine Municipal Association. If we get into a situation where we can't work our way out of it, then I will rely on this to straighten itself out. Hopefully we can make our way through it. Okay? Does everybody have a copy of the articles of the warrant? Article 1. Let me say this first. The proper method to work down through the articles of any municipal meeting or like this, I will read the article and then I'll ask for a motion. What I need for a motion is I need a motion that says I accept article such and such as printed. That, and once that is made and seconded, that moves the article off of the paper and onto the floor for you to discuss the article. Once that happens, then if you want to amend that article, then you can make an amendment to it. If the amendment is made and seconded, then the discussion will go on to the amendment, not necessarily on the meat of the article. Okay? And then once that discussion has taken place and you're satisfied with that, we will vote on the amendment. If the amendment passes, we'll go back and we'll vote on the article as amended. Okay? If it fails, we'll go back to the article. And if you want to make another amendment to it, then you can make another amendment. So that's the process. What I don't allow is an amendment to an amendment to an amendment, because I get confused real easy. You remember, I'm from the other side of the river, so you have to cut me a little slack here. but properly, just dealing with each amendment on their own. That makes it clean and concise so that everybody that is casting a ballot can make it with clear of mind. I do need one motion before we get into the meat of the subject. I need a motion to allow anyone who is not a registered voter of the RSU 74 who has information pertaining to Articles 1 through 20 to allow to speak. I need a motion on that now. Second. Motion has been made and seconded to allow a voting non-resident of the RSU 74 to speak on Articles 1 through 20. Any discussion? All those in favor of accepting that article, please signify. Those opposed, that motion carries. It's a little bit there's voting all the way around me here. I got to turn around and see what's going on behind me. I'm not used to having people behind me here. As long as my back is to the door and I can get out of here, I'm okay. Okay? Article 1. To see what sum the regional school board will be authorized to expend for regular instruction. School board recommendation is $3,888,176. What is your pleasure? I need a motion to accept Article 1 as printed. Is there a second? Did I hear it correctly? Okay. Is there a second to that motion? Motion been made and seconded to accept Article 1 as printed. Let me just clarify one other thing. I always request as printed because that's the wording that needs to be recorded in the legal recording. From time to time, I'll misspell a word or misspeak a word, so it's not as read, but it's as printed. Okay. Any discussion under Article 1? Yes, sir.
I've heard that lots of teachers aren't working as much with the online format as they did in the classroom. Does that mean we're still paying them as much? And what's going to happen next in September? Is part of the instruction going to be online? And if so, if they're working less, why wouldn't we pay them as much, or I understand maybe even more?
Okay, I'm going to make a suggestion. Okay, I'm going to make a suggestion that whoever wants to make an amendment, or whoever wants to speak on an article, that they make their way up to the mic, simply because we've got another room in the cafeteria here that is tied into this, just like right over here, sir. Yeah. And step up to it, but don't touch it.
Yes, I understand that the online instruction from March, April, May, and this month takes fewer teacher hours on average than in-class instruction. So, if this continues in the fall and we have some online instruction, why would we pay teachers as much as we were paying them when they were putting in more hours with the in-class discussion? Thank you.
Is there an answer to that?
Would you like to? Good evening, everyone. Thank you. I'm Mike Tracy, the superintendent of schools here in RSU 74. I will call your attention, we do have an overflow room in the cafeteria, so if you see me looking there or Mr. Curtis looking there, we're trying to be inclusive, and which is why we're asking for your patience on doing this meeting the way we're doing it tonight. We have followed the governor's order, which she's had several in this time of the COVID-19 pandemic, in which we've been obligated as a school system to pay out all contractual obligations. So that, I hope, is the short answer for this year. I would editorialize that to say, maybe we had some teachers walking dogs or going to the lake on the occasion. I don't know that, but I do know that they were working all of the obligations and working to reach families, continuing lesson planning, and that was in addition to having to learn the new interfaces of the Google Classrooms and the online interfaces. So I can't imagine a situation where we had teachers working less. So that, and that's just, that,
just a quick answer. And for next year, my answer would be very similar, that the current guidance for us for next year in being able to reopen, and I'm hopeful we're going to be able to reopen in the fall, leaves us without cutting staff. There actually, the guidance is to add things, add staff, add space, classroom space. So I can't really envision a situation where we can be reducing.
Any other question? Yes, sir.
Mr. Tracy, you say you can't imagine a situation where we've had teachers working less. One of my close neighbors is a local teacher, and he was going to retire after this year, but he told me that online teaching is so easy and takes so little time that he's not retiring. He's sticking with it. His average work time, according to him, is about 2 hours a day.
Any other question or comment under Article 1? Yep, that's all right here behind you.
My only question is on the ed tech salaries, it's approximately an $18,000 increase, and I was just wondering why so much in 1 year. Oh, all right here. The dues and fees seem to jump up quite a bit.
Thank you. The dues and fees I'm aware of, is that under elementary, I'm assuming you meant, sir? The elementary dues would be, one of our math programs, our elementary math programs, Go Math, the lease went out last year, so we're having to pick up a new purchase year, single purchase year. So that's more than it would have been had we still been under our lease obligation. We've incurred more. And we've also purchased a new software program at the elementary level. And I'm aware of those two pieces. In your first question, excuse me. We added an ed tech. Was that under the special education? I want to make sure I'm addressing the right.
On this page, it's all the elementary.
So in the past, we've had basically a long-term sub situation with an educational technician here at Skank in the kindergarten room, and we put that person into the budget as a more permanent staff member since they've been there for 2 years. We thought that was the appropriate thing to do.
Any other question or comment under Article 1? Yes, ma'am.
Not really on Article 1. I see people coming in, and if they're from the town, and the town's over here, shouldn't they come in and check from that town? So they're marked off on their own.
We're giving,
Two people from before.
yeah, we just didn't want to interrupt because we gave them a yellow card. We figured when it would come time for the voting, they could check them off then.
Okay.
But they do have vote card until they're checked in. That gives them the right to vote. That says they're a registered voter.
I'm not checked.
Any other question or comment? Yes, ma'am.
It needs to be checked in by the clerk before giving the card. And also, I wonder how many people are in the other room.
I don't know how many people are in the other room. I'd be happy
Is there a
to.
number? I mean, if they sat up top up there, if they sat up there, it'd be better than being stuck in the other room.
We're trying to follow the governor's guidelines of no more than 90 people in space. This is, I don't like it any more than you do. I'd be happy to people talk to us, and if that's a point of order that they want to address, and have them check in with their appropriate town. That's up to you, sir.
50 people is 50 people. If you as a body feel comfortable with somebody sitting up there, that as long as we don't get carried away with it. How many we got over there? How many we got over there? Is everybody comfortable where they are? I don't want anybody to be in an uncomfortable spot. We're exceeding the 50 by a few. If I go to jail, will somebody come bail me out? Okay, all right. All right, so, Any further discussion on Article 1? Thank you for your patience as we work our way through these adjustments. Yes, sir.
Two-part question. Are the teachers hourly or salary? Second part of the question. What does their union say about whether they should be paid during this time or not?
I'm going to try to reiterate the question just for purposes of online and so forth. Are the teachers' salary or hourly, as you said? And then the other question is, has the association, local association, spoken with me about
Right.
whether
Because
they...
it applies to salary line items, it doesn't apply to hourly. And what the union says usually overrides everything else.
Yes, sir. So, to answer your first question, the teachers are salaried employees.
So they're entitled to be paid. Salary is for a year, correct?
Yes, sir.
There's your answer, sir.
Well, yeah, that's for this year. For next, we'll talk about next year's budget. So there is your answer.
Got it. So what does their union say about docking their pay?
I have not asked the union about docking anyone's pay since we have been following the governor's order to pay those contracts, sir.
So nobody has asked the union what their spin on the unknown of this virus and what should be done as far as their people that work for you.
We have not had that discussion, sir.
Okay. Just curious, because it was going to come up next year.
Any further question or comment? Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
All right. What percentage of the budget are the salaries? Because we're talking about teacher salaries now, I'd like to get that up in the open before we even get started.
85.
I don't have an exact percentage, but salaries and benefits accounts for roughly 80% of the budget.
About 80? Okay. Our neighbors in Greenfield, that's at 58, it's like 89% of their budget is salary. I don't know if we married for that or not.
And again, I don't have an exact percentage. I would have to have time to calculate it, but it's at least 80, I believe.
Thank you.
Any further question or comment? Yes, ma'am.
A couple under the tech salary. Oh, I think you explained that one, Mr. Tracy. You were putting one on, someone on permanently.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And then under the secondary instruction, JV and adult ed.
Yes.
Increased by $40,000 this year. Can you
Yes.
explain that?
Yeah, we had two lines, and that was one that is the professional services line that you're referring to. I think it's page 6 of the budget. Page 6 of my budget. But anyway, under the secondary instruction, it's increased $40,000 because we are now paying the full portion to the alternative ed program in Madison that we share with Madison and Bingham. So it was one of those situations where we had a grant. We had a grant for 2 years, and that grant has slowly come to fruition. So that just in order to maintain our participation in that, we have to pick up our portion of that.
Can I follow up?
I know it's inconvenient, but we're spread out so far here that in order for everybody to hear the meat of the question and the answer, I'm going to ask you to come to the mic and ask the question. So think through your question before you come there so that you can break it down into a very simple yes/no question or a clarification question. Okay, so I'm going to insist on that because there are people who can't hear.
So just a follow-up to that question, so it's JMG and adult ed, correct? What portion of the 40,000?
JMG and alternative, not...
Oh, alternative ed.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and do you know roughly how many students that are in those two different programs?
We had 8 or 9 last year. We're scheduled to have a few more this year.
Okay.
And you asked what portion of that whole 40,000 was the new cost for that program. JMG did not increase.
Okay.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Yes, ma'am. This is an exercise class also tonight, so.
My comment is, every district has those teachers that work 2 hours. But we lost teachers in Mount Blue this year because the online learning was so overwhelming. I mean, they were getting hundreds of emails through that Google Classroom. Kids have questions. And, you know, you have 20 kids in a class and each have 5 questions. I mean, teachers couldn't do it. So the other side of the coin is, you're going to pay those teachers for those extra hours. Some of them working late at night.
Any other comment or question under Article 1? Yes, sir.
Sure. So it sounds great that the teachers were doing that extra work. It's wonderful. Now, what I understand the situation has been here is that the teachers don't collect the packets they send to the students, and they don't mark them up, and they don't give them back. So that essentially the learning process is sort of frozen, which is less work than I'll bet they're doing in Mount Good. Oh, sure.
No, I can see it here. The reason they were not graded, some were pass fail, that was an addition from the state. Again, okay? And so,
Oh, I'm not talking about grading. I'm just feedback.
but what the idea was,
Okay, wait.
to keep the learning process going.
We don't want to cross conversation. Yes, sir.
Hi there. I am a teacher in this district. I can't speak for the employee that is rumored to be working just 2 hours a day. But if that employee does, in fact, exist, I think he may be an outlier. As far as teachers not giving any feedback, one of the things that I discovered with Google Classroom, and I had never used it before this year, but I was actually impressed with it in that I thought I gave much better feedback than I had given in the traditional paper pencil sort of assignments. Half the time when you have paper pencil stuff, it's a battle simply to read what is written on the page. With everything typewritten, I think I type faster than I do handwriting, so I was getting much better feedback. And again, I think we have a great bunch of teachers in this district. I think our teachers put in a great deal of effort in the online learning, and I hope there is some recognition of that, despite whatever negative feedback might be out there. Thank you.
Any other question or comment in regards to Article 1? Seeing none, I send you ready to vote. The motion is made and seconded to accept Article 1 as printed. All those in favor, please signify. Those opposed? Motion carries. Article 2. To see what sum the regional school unit will be authorized to expend for special education. School board's recommendation, $1,633,284. What is your pleasure under Article 2?
Accept as printed.
Motion has been made and seconded to accept Article 2 as printed. Any discussion? Any question? Yes, sir.
Under educational technicians, salaries have jumped up 42,000, and I just wanted a clarification.
Yep, we had to add that 3 to the special education department.
Any other question or comment under Article 2? Seeing none, I send you ready to vote. All in favor of accepting Article 2 as printed, please signify. Those opposed? Motion carries. Article 3, see what sum the regional school unit will be authorized to expend for career and technical education. School board recommends 0. What is your pleasure? I know it's no money there, but we have to act on it because it's an article on the warrant. Yes. Motion made and accepted as printed. All those in favor of accepting Article 3 in amount of 0, please signify. Those opposed? That motion carries. Article 4. See what sum the regional school unit will be authorized to expend for other instruction. School board's recommendation, $224,907. What is your pleasure under Article 4? Motion is made. Is there a second to that? Motion has been made and seconded to accept Article 4 as printed. Any question? Any comment? Yes, ma'am.
It's not a comment on this. I would like to ask when we're voting, can you take account of the yes and no's? Not that I don't think you know what you're doing, but when I looked around with the first vote, it looked like it was really close. So if we could have a count, the yes versus the no, so we know exactly what it is.
If anybody questions the vote,
Questioning it.
or the tally of the vote, and if 7 people agree to with that, then we will ask for another vote. It'll either be stand vote or some vote we can get an actual click count. But to count every one of them, I look around, as long as there's a majority, I'm good with that. If not, then I question.
Well, I'll be one of the 7. We want to look at the first. I mean, if somebody's uncertain as to whether the vote really did pass, the motion did pass, let's take a quick count of it. It's not going to take long.
We're on Article 4.
Well, she has a question about Article 1.
I don't understand what you're asking.
Well, I believe the young woman has suggested that for close votes, it would make sense to take an actual count. And if she's concerned that we may not have an accurate result, I would like to have a count. I'll be one of the 7 people you said need to support her in terms of counting the
Okay, my question was, and I did not get an answer to that, if you're concerned about the vote on Article 1, that's what I think I'm hearing. And she raised the question, if there are 7 other individuals who have that same concern, please signify.
Yeah, we got 15.
Okay, so let's go back. It's probably not protocol, but let's go back and vote on Article 1 again, okay? Without any discussion. We've had all our discussion on Article 1. Okay? So hold your thumb on Article 4, and once we clear Article 1, we'll come back to 4. Everybody's happy with 2 and 3. All right. Okay, good. Okay, let's vote on Article 1. Again, Article 1 is to see what sum the regional school unit will be authorized to expend for regular instruction. The number is $3,888,176. All in favor of accepting Article 1 as printed, please stand. And I need some counters. Yes vote. All of those in favor of accepting Article 1 as printed, please stand and stay standing until you get a number. Who's counting? Right over here. All those, please be seated. All those opposed to accepting Article 1 as printed, please stand. Thank you, you may be seated. There were 26 yes votes and 21 no votes.
Thanks for doing that.
Okay? Back to Article 4. Is this discussion on Article 4?
No, it's discussion on standing up to be counted. I have a hard time standing up. So
Yes.
I appreciate it. Allow me to hold my hand up and put my card up. Otherwise, you might have to be making me up.
So you vote yes or no?
I stood for the last one. But I'm asking that I not stand for the rest of it.
I understand that. I understand. I'm asking you, was your vote yes or was your vote no?
Article 1,
On Article 1.
I was standing for no.
Yours or no?
I stood. You counted me. You're missing my point. I'm asking you for the rest of it, can I please hold my card up instead of standing?
Because nothing changes. Okay, Article 4. We're moving on to Article 4. Okay? We're still on Article 1.
Everyone needs to hear you. That's what we need.
Is your
Article 4.
Article 4. Okay.
I would like to know what other instruction consists of, or instruction, or just like other teaching, learning, more learning. Like what does it consist of?
Under Article 4, the question is, what is other instructions?
Co-curricular, extracurricular activities.
Okay.
Sports, athletics.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
We really need an Article 4. We're not even playing sports right now, are we? I mean, are we still paying coaches and everything
The
else?
spring athletic programs were canceled. We aren't intended currently, we don't have direct guidance yet, but we are looking at opening for the fall and working on guidance to have fall athletics, yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Good question.
Any other question or comment under Article 4?
Question about that from Superintendent?
Yes, ma'am.
So should it be that they not have sports over activities in the fall? What will happen to that money that is budgeted? Well, let's say they don't do it, where will that money go?
As we did with the spring athletics, that was part of the COVID-19 savings that was presented to the board last month, and you folks decided to carry $100,000 forward to reduce the local amount. If that were to be the case again in the fall, my recommendation would be the same for next year's budget.
You're going to carry it over,
We would,
go back to the community?
I'd make the recommendation if we had any other savings like that, we would try to pass that on to the local. Yes, ma'am. Yep.
Any other question or comment on Article 4? All those in favor of accepting Article 4 as printed, please signify. Those opposed? The motion carries. Article 5. To see what sum the regional school unit will be authorized to expend for school board expend for student and staff support. School board recommendation is $805,285. Let me read that again. You threw me curves here and I'm all confused, but I think we can get it together. Article 5. To see what sum the regional school unit will be authorized to expend for student and staff support. School board's recommendation is $805,285. What is your pleasure under Article 5? Motion has been made. There's a second. Motion has been made and seconded to accept Article 5 as printed. Any question? Yes, sir.
Just a real quick question on page 23. It suggests that in the staff support section under elementary library services, it suggests that the books and periodicals, which was at $91.87 this year, is going to be reduced to $48.37. And I was just curious why you reduced the books and periodicals.
That's it.
We cut that amount out of that budget.
Yeah, I just wondered why.
Yeah, we worked to reduce the overall budget to bring, when we brought that forward for this spring. Well, we worked on it in February, began working on it earlier than that. And we went, the administrative team and myself, into an exercise to try to reduce every place we possibly could within reason to try to lessen the overall budget for the taxpayers.
Any other question on Article 5? Yes, ma'am.
I have a comment to that gentleman's question about the library. As a PTO president, last year, we were able to, as a PTO, donate $1,200 of the books to CCS. Through the support of the book fairs, we were able to do that.
Wonderful.
Any other question or comment on Article 5? Yes, ma'am.
I know back when we were doing the budgets early before COVID-19 and everything happened, I had the opportunity to attend one of the budget meetings. And at that meeting, we had great discussion about the books and stuff for the library. We have said numerous times that the budget needs to be cut, but not at the expense of the kids. And this is a direct expense toward the kids. And I'm thinking, maybe if we don't have, we have what, like 136 students at the high school right now, that maybe the way to cut would be to, instead of having 2 teachers for every subject, you have enough classes, enough periods, you have green and white days, that maybe cut a salary, but let the kids have their books.
Any other question or comment? Yes, ma'am. Yep.
I'm just going to reiterate what's already been said. This is, to me, a direct slap in the face to the young kids in elementary school. Taking half of their book budget, which many of them spend time in the library. For many, that's the only exposure to books they have. And yet, later we'll see that we have a maintenance budget over half what our educational budget is. I think that $4 grand can come somewhere else.
Any other question or comment on Article 5? Seeing none, seeing none, yes, ma'am.
I would like to make an amendment to that article and increase that line by $4,000 to bring it up to where are we? We're on 5, right? So it'd be $809,285.
Second.
809,000.
Yeah, right now it's at 805,000, and I'd like to go to 809, increase it by 4,000.
800, you want 809,000.
Correct. No, I want to increase 4,000.
$809,285. So you're increasing it by $4,000. Is there a second to that?
Yes, right here.
The amendment has been made and seconded to amend Article 5 from the written number of $805,285 to a new number of $809,285. Any discussion on the amendment? Ready to vote for the amendment? You vote for the amendment, and then if the amendment passes, we'll go back and vote for the article as amended. So it takes 2 votes to make this work. Okay? Any discussion on the amendment? Yes, ma'am.
Doesn't mean if we
I'll read it. So what Mrs. Murray just mentioned was that the authority of the public is to make and approve motions against these articles in totality. The school board has the authority to do its pleasure within those allotted amounts. So in the event that you folks approve a $4,000 increase, that may or may not mean the board authorizes the increase of that $4,000 in that stated line specifically. And that's just a procedural thing that Mrs. Murray mentioned, and that's correct.
I think I heard that you wanted that money to go to the library. Is that correct? Okay. You can't change the intent of the wording of the article. You can change the amount. Where that money goes is totally up to the school board. In other words, we on the floor cannot do what you want to do with it. They hear what you're saying, and hopefully they'll understand that and make that move. But we can't work that into the amendment. The amendment is just to change the amount. Okay? Any other question or comment on the amendment? The amendment is to change the number in Article 5 from $805,285 to $809,285. All those in favor of the amendment, please signify. All those opposed to the amendment? I think the amendment passed. Let's have a count though, just to be sure, okay? Somebody's got to count, because, okay? Let's vote on that again. All in favor of the amendment? The amendment, you're increasing the amount by $4,000. Please hold your hand right up. We'll get a count on that. Down hands. Have we got a number? You girls satisfied with the number? All of those opposed to the amendment, please signify. Hold your hand right up. Bring me over your number. Okay, here's what we're going to do. I need just two counters. I need this guy counting, and I need this lady counting. Okay? So we're going to vote over on that. We got different numbers. What's that? So you want 4 ballot clerks counting? Okay. All in favor of the amendment, we're voting. All in favor of the amendment, under Article 5, put your hand up and count them. Hold them up until these two got to count.
We do have one person voting in the other votes.
Down hands.
She's abstaining.
Those opposed to the amendment to Article 5, hold your hand right up. You got a tie vote of 23-23, so that means the motion fails. Okay? Unless somebody questions it, you want to vote again. Question it?
I question it because we should not have to have it, it's said that you can't have it. If you have to do the old school 1, 2, 3, and everybody then name off their number, maybe we need to do that. But we shouldn't have it.
So,
We've got 3 different counters.
you've got 4 clerks here. You want those 4 clerks doing the counting. Is that what I understand? Okay.
Use the microphone. Can you use the mic?
I'm just not clear on who's going to be counting. The vote was tied 23-23. That means the vote failed. The motion failed. If somebody wants to challenge that, I need somebody to say, I challenge that, and I need to have 7 people agree with that person. I hear challenge. Is there 7 people that agree with the challenge? One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay? I need 2 volunteer clerks. I don't care who it is, but they need to come right up here. So we'll vote again. Is there anybody in the other room?
One resident, she told me she's abstaining from voting.
She's abstaining from
Yes,
voting?
sir. Yeah.
Okay. So we don't have to worry about the other room. Come right up here, ladies, so we can see what's going on. One needs to come from one side and one needs to come from the other side, and you both got to agree. We're doing by the hands. We're going to have them stand up. Okay? Article 5, you're voting on the amendment. Okay? The amendment is to increase that amount by $4,000. All those in favor, please stand and stay standing until I give an agreed count on these 2 counters.
Except the gentleman who can't.
Those in favor?
can't see, let's get ones up front. Thank you. Don't count.
Everybody voted and set. All those opposed to accepting the amendment to Article 5, please stand. Remain standing and catch that guy's hand up back, because he can't stand, okay?
Did you get me to Nancy?
All counted?
Oh, can you?
Maybe see.
Thank you, Don. Do you want a chair?
What is it?
22 yes and 24 no.
22 yes, 24 no. The amendment fails. Any other discussion under Article 5 as printed? Seeing none, all in favor of accepting Article 5 as printed, please signify. All those opposed? You're worried about where you were last time. I need some more counters.
Leslie, we need to count this vote again. Yeah. That's it. No, this is, now we're voting on Article 5 as written. That's what they're voting on now.
We're voting on Article 5.
Mr. Curtis needs a recount.
So I'm going to ask for everybody, I need the same two counters. Or at least I need two counters, two clerks. Don't have to be the same one. You got two new ones here. Okay. All in favor of accepting Article 5 as printed in the amount of $805,285, please hold your hand up and hold it up there until the counters have a number. All coming? Down hands. All those opposed to accepting Article 5 as printed, please signify. Same counters. Count them again. Thank you. Put your hands down. Yes, 28, no, 24. Article 5 has passed. Article 6. To see what sum the regional school unit will be authorized to expend for system administration. School board's recommendation is $376,778. What is your pleasure under Article 6? Motion has been made and seconded to accept Article 6 as printed. Any discussion? Any question? All in favor of accepting Article 6 as printed, please signify. Those opposed? Motion carries. Article 7. See what sum the regional school unit will be authorized to expend for school administration. School board's recommendation is $626,952. What is your pleasure under Article 7? We need a motion. Motion made and seconded to accept Article 7 as printed. Any discussion? Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I'm confused. We lost Mr. D. We have a new principal, who's a brand new principal. Why are we paying more for principal salaries?
If I can stop me there for a second. The budget was created with prior administration's increases in it. So any increases were budgeted as if he were still here. We may or may not be paying the new person. We're not. But from budget year to budget year, that's what's in there.
Any other question or comment under Article 7? Yes, ma'am.
Can you tell me when the new principal was hired?
At the last school board meeting on June 4th?
Yep.
June 4th.
So there was an opportunity to change that because we know we're not going to, or we assume we're not going to be paying the new principal that amount of money. So why would we have not reduced that line to help reduce the budget? Because now if that passes, that is in that budget, and that money can be used for whatever you wanted to use for now in that whole line. So it's kind of deceptive by having that extra money in there when you know you're not going to be using it, or more likely you're not going to be using it.
I can't really comment on how deceptive something is. I can say that the budget was developed prior to hiring, prior to COVID, frankly. The one adjustment the school committee made at their last meeting was to impute forward $100,000 of savings back to the taxpayers by way of moving the carry forward ahead. We did not discuss changing other budget lines.
Yes.
But at that last meeting, at the beginning of June, was a meeting to make the final changes on that budget. That was the meeting that I had set at when you introduced the new principal. So there was an opportunity right then and there to make those changes, because other decisions were made that night also.
The only discussion we had on changing the budget was the carry forward. We did not discuss itemization of any of the other costs.
I understand that. Can you explain why you did not discuss that?
Any other question, comment? Yes, I have some back, sir. What's that?
He was starting to answer.
Did you answer her question?
I don't have an answer for her outside of what I gave for information.
Yes, sir.
Do I address him or you, Mr. Moderator? Do I address him or you?
Yeah.
So we have hired a new principal in place of Mr. DeJardin.
Yes, sir.
There is a delta in salary, is that correct? That there's a difference in salary?
Yes.
And what would that number look like? So if we simply could back that amount out of this line that you're looking for here, that would eliminate any question on that, wouldn't it?
I can't comfortably give you a number.
But he's being hired?
Yeah.
Has he accepted?
Yes.
Did he know what his salary was?
A new person, yes.
Then why can't we know what the difference was?
Let's see if we can.
Ballpark. I mean, if it's 2,000 or 20,000, then we simply back that out of the line number.
I understand. Let's see if we can figure it out.
Does that work?
I don't want to cut lower than we're able to, take out more than we can. So let's just. Mr. Moderator?
Yes, sir.
I'd like to answer our best, we don't have the new contract in front of us, but our best guess is $6,600.
Okay. Any other? Yes, ma'am.
I didn't hear that last.
6,600. Trying to make sure everybody hears it.
I'm a little confused by which article are on. I thought we were on 6, but the amount we put out was for 7, so I'd like to know which one we're actually voting on. 6 doesn't cover principal stuff. It's board of directors. You're on 7, so did we vote on 6?
We voted on 6. We're on Article 7. Yes, ma'am. I didn't.
I didn't amend Article 7, the line which is written as $6,026,952 reduced by $7,000, which I believe is $619. No, sorry, $617? 619. Sorry, 6,200. 620,352. I'd like to reduce the amount in that line to 516,600, which would make it 6,020, 600,000, 20,000, 300.
Yes.
Second.
Question?
We're seconding.
So, Mr. Moderator, we have a motion on the floor to amend Article 7 by reducing it by $6,600, which is $620,352. And Mrs. Allos seconded it.
What's the number again? Look at me and tell me.
620,000.
620,000.
352.
352?
Yes, sir.
The motion is to amend Article 7 from $626,952 to $620,352. That motion has been made and seconded. Any discussion on the amendment? Yes, ma'am.
How sure are you on that figure? I want to be careful.
I will remind you and the public that we can reduce that line, and that doesn't necessarily mean the board I would reduce that line. And after having thought about it a moment, had I thought about it last month, I would have brought that change to you. I'm sure that there probably will be other changes for next year. So to answer your question directly, I'm comfortable in allowing the public to make that change. And I'm sorry to bring up the board.
Any other question or comment on the amendment? The amendment being $620,352 for Article 7. All those in favor of the amendment, please signify. Those opposed? That motion carries. Article 7. As amended. All in favor of accepting Article 7 as amended, the amendment being $620,352, please signify. Those opposed, the motion carries. Article 8, to see what sum the regional school unit will be authorized to expend for transportation and buses. School board's recommendation is $669,840. What is your pleasure under Article 8? Motion has been made. Is there a second? Motion has been made and seconded to accept Article 8 as printed. Any question? Any comment? Yes, sir.
Oh, yes, the equipment was 8,000 and it's up to 21,893. I think that's pretty much all.
Thank you. We had an increase in special education transportation, so we allocated it appropriately in the budget line, which was that increase of $9,000. You just asked about, Mr. Lahey, and we had some product, supply equipment, repairs, parts. We didn't have enough in the budget this year, so we increased it to reflect what we suspect will be needed repairs.
Any other question or comment under Article 8? Yes, ma'am.
Can't hear you.
You said you didn't have enough in this year's budget to buy supplies and fix the equipment? Because we're rolling over like over about $600,000, so I'm not quite sure how we wouldn't have enough in those lines to have done that work.
My understanding was we did not have enough funds this year in repair parts.
But we're carrying forward from June 30th money
Yes, ma'am.
in those lines.
It doesn't mean we carry money, that we're carrying money from that specific line. What I'm being told is that that line we had to run over because we had to purchase more parts than we anticipated. That's why we allocated more this year. That's why we did that.
Any other question or comment? Yes, ma'am.
just to be clear and nitpicky, but clear. You guys can just spend this in what you want, regardless of what you put here. And yet you're honestly looking at us and saying you didn't have money for repairs. You had money for repairs. You chose not to spend it. That's it.
Any other question or comment? Yes, sir.
I think my only comment is equipment and bus parts are two totally different things.
Were you asking about equipment, Mr. Lewis? Yes. Lori, there's a question on the floor about why we increased the equipment costs in transportation.
Yes.
In the bus stop, or are we talking?
In transportation, under equipment, it went from 8,000 to 21, almost 22,000.
Madison said that we should probably increase our parts line because we drive so many dirt roads. Is that why you're
And
talking
again,
about?
the equipment is different than bus parts. Bus parts is listed up above at 53,250.
Equipment should be zero.
Let me see if I can, let me look up.
I like the number, but I don't think it's accurate. And just to follow up on that question, I don't see an amount in here anywhere for the contract or mask.
That is,
Yeah, sorry, Scott. That's, 5 bus cameras, 5 new radios and antennas. Can you repeat that, please? 5 new bus cameras, radios, and antennas. So I was reading the wrong lines, I'm sorry.
So if I'm understanding this right, you're saying that some items weren't done because you didn't have the funds to do it?
I didn't say that.
no. The amount of money in that line was not enough. And excuse me if I said we didn't have enough money. What I meant by that statement was that allocated in that line was $8,000, and it cost us $13,000 in parts, let's say. Please don't hold me to that. Okay. It was more than what we had budgeted. So we had increased that. I thought Mr. LaHaye was asking about parts, because there's an increase in the parts line. And then I re-understood him to mean he was asking about equipment. So then I took a moment to look back into the backup of what that actually meant for equipment that he was asking about. So those increases are based on what Mrs. Zagrin just said. So what I meant by not enough money was there was not enough money allocated in that line. This doesn't mean there wasn't enough money in the budget. In that line for bus equipment or parts. Those specific lines.
So needed repairs or parts were purchased as needed. Because we vote here on transportation, we don't vote on radios. We approve the transportation budget at X amount of dollars. We don't approve $1,000 for radios only here at our meetings.
Correct.
So within the transportation budget, you can move money around. Correct?
The board can.
Yes. If somebody comes and says we need to do something, you can move it around. Because you currently have $156,000 surplus in that account. So, seems like it's something needs to be done with this money.
And we did. I believe she took care of everything we needed to, but what we were doing is saying, oh, we didn't allocate enough this year. So next year, we'll ratchet that up a little bit more to ensure that we have enough money in that budget line allocated to spend, as we told you all we would do. So that's why we were doing it.
Just
So-
wanted to make sure. that-
Yeah, I didn't mean to say that we didn't have enough money. I didn't explain that correctly, I'm sorry.
So as far as last year's school budget, the transportation cost, there must have been some money left over, right? We weren't in school for a full year. Is that money rolled over into this year's budget?
So just to be all due respect, we were out of school for 3 months, not a full year.
I understand that. 3 months is 3 months. You go to school for 7 months a year.
9.
Wow. But vacations and everything else from the buses I run, we're closer to 7. 3 months we weren't in school, so there must be money being rolled over into this budget.
So your question to me is there money savings from not running the buses during that?
Absolutely.
That's your question?
Yes.
So the answer is yes. And last month at the school board meeting, we worked with the school committee to look at areas within this current school year's budget to see what savings we had. Transportation was some. And we have taken $100,000 in what's called the district's carry forward. And we moved that forward into this budget to lower the increase to the local taxpayers. So we did do that.
So did it go back into the transportation budget of this one?
No.
Or just went into a fund?
It goes into a general fund, sir, yes.
Any other comment?
So you're not buying a new bus this year?
No, sir.
That's not in the budget? No. So you're putting equipment in existing buses?
Correct, sir.
Did you buy cameras and radios?
Yes, sir.
I'm assuming they had radios in them before, they're probably just outdated.
And you know the new law, we're trying to upgrade and manage the new law on cameras and visibility. So
Four works great.
what you know,
Four cameras work great. I know how much they cost, I don't argue that as long as that's what that money's going for.
yes, sir.
You're not buying a new bus, why is your lease purchase principal and interest gone up?
My understanding, the lease purchase is for, when we do purchase those buses, we stretch that payment out over 5 years for the lease.
Correct.
So the 3 new buses that we purchased over the last 2 years, we're still paying on those. So those leases subsequently ratchet up slightly until we get them off.
They ratchet up?
They are slightly increased payment year after year, I believe, unless I'm reading something.
I think you better read it.
Same payment, but from the prior year before, what we estimated the payment would be when we purchased the new bus, it was a little bit more.
Because you didn't allocate enough because of the bid price came in.
Correct.
Okay, that I understand. And my last question that I don't think I ever got an answer for was the Madison contract. I cannot see it.
Yeah, it is in the budget, sir. It's $51,074. And
Looking on page 27, I cannot see.
yeah,
On page 26, Scott. Under contracted services, much repair.
Any other question or information needed under Article 8? Yes, ma'am.
Just a clarification, if I can get it, please. The equipment that you were talking about, that was already purchased for this year for the buses?
the cameras and so forth?
Yes.
No.
Okay, but it was in this year's budget? Because you said they didn't have enough money for it.
I'm not sure what we this past year's.
This year's budget, we've had trouble with the cameras that we have now. The new buses have way higher seats. You can't see into the seats if there's a scuffle or anything that's going on. The new bus cameras that they're offering now, they're panoramic, you can see down into the seats to see who picked Johnny or Sally or.
Okay, so for clarification, clarification, there was nothing in the current year's budget for those cameras or that equipment
No, we had some repairs to cameras, some repairs to radios.
that you already budgeted for.
That was
Okay.
the
That's what I want clarification, thank you.
Any other question under Article 8? All in favor of accepting Article 8 as printed, please signify. Those opposed? That motion carries. Article 9. Article 9, to see what sum the regional school unit will be authorized to expend for facilities maintenance. School board's recommendation, $1,718,024. What is your pleasure under Article 9? Motion is made, is there a second? Motion has been made and seconded to accept Article 9 as printed. Any discussion? Any question? All in favor of accepting Article 9 as printed, please signify. Hold on.
Under repair and maintenance, under Garrett Skank, there's a $56,175 bill that seems to be quite a bit higher than any other building. And I was just wondering if we could get some clarification on what we were spending it on.
He's talking about Garrett Skank. Are you talking about anticipated contracted services and boilers and maintenance? The increases for Garrett Skank.
Is that the boiler section start? Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
We've had some problems with the boiler here at Skank. It's been leaking some water. Gonna have to do some repairs down there to keep it running a few more years. The last time we had it inspected last year, they said hopefully we get another 5 years out of it. Shortly after that, some things let go and we had to have some repair. Also on the increase, just so you know, gym lights are terrible down there. I know a lot of you have been to meetings and they're different colors there. So we put an increase in the budget to replace those lights and also some windows, coupling that's been there for, I don't know how long, it's all wrinkled up and it's a trick hazard. So there is an increase for those down there, they're staying. Right now we're being turned down here, so.
I very well know what you're talking about down there.
Yes, as you would, yes.
After so many years. I would also suggest not putting more money on boilers.
Yes, sir.
I have one question about Garrett Skank. How many students are in Garrett Skank and how many students can be put in Garrett Skank? In other words, it'll hold 1,200 kids and we got 200 in there? That's my question.
I could turn your attention to page 13 in the budget, the green budget book, sir. Garrett Skank, as of October 1st, which is the, October 1st is the number we use because that's also the number we use to be funded on. There were 89 students at Garrett, 89 students at Garrett Skank. And I would be guessing if I were to tell you how many I think we could fit in that building. I don't know. 200.
Pretty big building. For 89 kids. While we're on Garrett Skank, I had another question. When Mr. Colville was here, he had a whole bunch of fuel oil dumped in the tanks up there. Whatever happened to that fuel oil? We're talking hundreds of gallons.
If that fuel tank is a 6,000 gallon tank,
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
It's a,
That fuel tank at Garrett's tank holds 6,000 gallons of fuel? Yeah, he said right here, told us he filled it up. We burned quite a bit of fuel down there, because there's no... So you were using it at the school? Oh, yes, we absolutely... He did not clarify. No, sorry, we are using that and wood pellets.
Yes, ma'am.
What are the proposed capital improvements and renovations for nearly $500,000?
Gosh, she's asking about proposed improvements and renovations to the building.
The roof at Garrett's tank has some holes in it. The roof at Garrett's tank has some holes in it. The roof also has some holes in it. There's windows and doors here that really need to be replaced in the beginning since 1980 when I was here. And they're not energy efficient at all. Well, as Scott can tell you, water runs in them on a good winter day. We've had roof here at the tractor shed needs to be replaced. That's falling apart. Also needs some trusses fixed. We really need a storage facility. We don't have enough storage for anything with this COVID. I think we're going to need some. That's not in there. I didn't add that into that capital. A lot of roofs, a lot of windows, doors, anything major like that would be in that capital.
Any other question or comment under Article 9?
Mr. Moderator,
Yes, sir.
I don't want to leave any erroneous information out there. Where are you seeing $500,000? So that includes salaries of staff, that's the whole entire budget, I believe. No?
Page 30, Article 10. Capital
You said page 13? 30. Sorry. Thank you. So in addition to that, that's a great, thank you, because I needed to clarify for myself. We're also, in that number you're talking about, are the renovation loan payments. So the loans that were taken out, particularly on this building, some of the district-wide improvements, such as the boilers and so forth, all fit. That's that 400 and something thousand. That's what you're asking about. Those are renovation loans. And those, usually I'm asked, so I'll just tell you, they, on this building, subside in 2030 and 2031. Thank you. Thank you for clarifying.
Set?
Yes, sir.
All set? Any other questions on Article 9? All in favor of accepting Article 9 as printed, please signify. Those opposed? The motion carries. Article 10. See what sum the regional school unit will be authorized to expend for debt service and other commitments. School board's recommendation, $435,875. What is your pleasure under Article 10? Motion been made and seconded to accept Article 10 as printed. Any discussion? Yes, ma'am.
No, ma'am. This is CCS.
That's just CCS.
Just CCS.
Yeah, that's the way we have to do the state debt service is only for new buildings. Yeah.
And that's the, we get funding for that as well?
Yeah.
Any other question or comment on Article 10? All those in favor of accepting Article 10 as printed, please signify. Those opposed? That motion carries. Article 11, to see what sum the regional school unit will be authorized to expend for all other expenditures. School board's recommendation is 0. What is your pleasure under Article 11? Motion has been made and seconded to accept Article 11 as printed. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of accepting Article 11 as printed, please signify. Those opposed, motion carries. Article 12, to see what sum the regional school unit will appropriate for the total cost of funding public education from kindergarten to grade 12 as described in the Essential Programs and Services Funding Act, and to see what sum the regional school unit will raise and assess as each municipality's contribution to the total cost of funding public education from kindergarten to grade 12, as described in the Essential Programs and Services Funding Act in accordance with Maine Revised Statute, Title 28, Section 15688. Recommends amount as follows. Total appropriated by municipality, Town of Anson, $4,173,747.73. Town of Emden, $1,209,781.95. Town of New Portland, $824,065.76, and the town of Solon, $1,648,131.50, for a total appropriated of $7,855,726.94. Total raised and for assessment to the municipalities, town of Anson, $1,095,574.66. Town of Emden, $1,203,246.13. Town of New Portland, $622,089. And Town of Solon, $768,374.66, for a total raise and assessment of $3,689,284.45. What is your pleasure under Article 12? There's an explanation there. I'm not going to take time to read it. I need a motion to accept Article 12 as printed. Seconded. Any questions or comments on Article 12?
Doesn't the amount under the total raise and regional school unit assessments by municipality, $3,689,284.45, need to be reduced by that $6,600 that was cut from one of the budget lines? And if so, I will amend the article to do that.
That's the required local share. It would be the next article on the additional local share.
Can you say that loud so everybody can hear?
This article remains as is, but the next article on the additional local funds, somebody needs to make the motion to amend it
By $6,000.
by $6,600.
Any other question or comment under Article 12? Yes, ma'am.
So are we saying we need to amend it by $6,600? No.
Not
The next one.
Sorry.
Any other question or comment? All in favor of accepting Article 12 as printed, please signify. Those opposed? Motion carries. Article 13. Article 13 is a written ballot. We'll read the article. The article needs to be moved and placed on the floor for debate and discussion. And then when it comes time to vote, we'll be voting by written ballot. I assume everybody's got a written ballot. Article 13. See what sum the regional school unit will raise and appropriate in additional local cost. Recommended $1,923,105, which exceeds the state's essential programs and services allocation model by $1,923,105 as required to fund the budget recommended by the school board. School board recommends $1,923,000 $105, which exceeds the state's essential programs and services allocation model by $1,923,105. The school board gives the following reasons to exceed state essential programs and services funding. This amount is needed to cover the cost of the regional school unit schools that the state's funding model does not recognize, including the following. 1, cost to maintain student-teacher ratio. 2, cost of special education programming. 3, cost of extracurricular and co-curricular programs. And 4, transportation costs. I need a motion to put Article 13 on the floor to accept as printed and open it up for discussion. Motion is made and seconded to accept Article 13 as printed. Any discussion? Any comment? Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to amend this article. I would like to recommend the amount of $1,323,105.
Second. Second.
Okay, run that number by me real close, real slow.
1,323,105. 1,000,000.
1, 1.
Yep. 323. 105. It's a difference of 600,000, which is being rolled over at the end of June.
So you're reducing it by 800,000?
600,000.
600,000. So you're $1,323,105.
Correct.
That's your amendment?
Correct.
Correct. Is there a second? to
Yeah,
that?
second.
Okay, we're going to discuss the amendment. The amendment is to reduce the amount of money recommended by the school board from $1,923,105 to $1,323,105. Any question, comment, explanation?
Yes, I did this figure for the taxpayers in all the towns. We're all in dire straits. I'm doing this figure for the taxpayers in the town. At the end of this budget year, we're going to roll over roughly $600,000. There's $825,000 already in an undesignated fund. Obviously, we're not using the money from last year or the COVID savings and everything to offset this, and I believe the taxpayers can't keep taking this kind of hit. And this is the local part of it, so that's why I'm recommending that figure.
Any other question or comment on the amendment? Yes, ma'am.
I can yell loud enough. I have a question. I'd like Mr. Tracy to address that, and what's that going to do to the district, please?
So,
Because to me, well, let me just finish. To me, what's going to happen down the road?
So what happens is, Mrs. Murray's talking about what we're projecting to be an unassigned fund balance. And when I'm working with folks, I call that like our savings account. It is the money that's left over at the end of the year that you've approved as voters, and that goes for one reason or another unspent. Okay? And I've worked with my staff really hard to build that savings account. I know that some people want to argue today about how much that is, and I do agree that it is, we're in a place where we're getting to a pretty healthy position. Most of the people in this room, I remember being in their offices and across the municipalities 4 years ago when I had inherited a district that was going into the red. And my business manager said we might have to borrow money to make payroll. I believe that Mrs. Murray's, it's not Mrs. Murray, but her recommendation of moving that kind of money back here is going to put your district and it'll put us in a trajectory that we may not be able to sustain. I don't think we'll be able to sustain that. That would leave us 0% in any kind of savings, any kind of emergency situation. So that's my thought and my recommendation.
at the end of the school year for the 2018 to 19 school year budget, which was the prior year, we had $825,000, 976, almost $826,000 left over. What happened to that money?
Yeah, so some of that money gets rolled forward and moves into this year's budget that we're currently, well, she's asking about the current budget. So we moved, from last year, we moved $200,000 of that forward. This current projected year, we're looking at taking out of that $825,000, we're looking at already rolling forward $400,000 in carryover. So and we're hoping to have some reserves as well at the end of this year.
So we had $826,000 left over last year, and you used only $200,000 of that money to reduce the property taxes, to reduce the town's assessments last year. So we still had $626,000 left over, sitting somewhere. And this year we're projected, as best I can figure, we're going to have between $600,000 and $800,000 left over, based on the projected budget that I received, expenditures to the end of the year. We should have between $600,000 and $800,000. So between the $600,000 we had here and this, we have like $1.2 million sitting available to be used to reduce taxes.
We don't have 1.2 million. We have, if we put some money away in reserves, which I'm hoping folks will do tonight. Then
You had $826,000 left over last year, and you only used $200,000 of it to reduce the tax burden last year. So you have $626,000 sitting somewhere right now from last year's budget.
Okay.
And we anticipate between $600,000 and $800,000 for a balance from this year's budget.
I'm not sure we're going to have that kind of an increase in spite of that expense report that I provided to you, because we just paid out summer salary of $90,000 in summer salaries this month. So I'm not sure we're going to have those numbers that you're.
So say $700,000 or $600,000. That gives us $1.2 million sitting there, available to reduce taxes. I understand you need to have a little bit of a cushion.
So if the number's $1 million, okay, and we're talking about in a fund balance that's unused, then we're already in this next budget that we're voting on tonight, we're bringing forward $400,000 already of that $1 million. Okay, I can't say a number because we haven't been audited yet. I would do the same thing you're doing and projecting, but I'm not as comfortable to say that we're going to have $500,000 to $600,000 at the end of this year because of the things I just told you. We have expenses in June, and so take that and try to run a conservative budget so that we can get payroll and we can pay our expenses. We're already moving forward $400,000 on that. So you're right, that would leave about $600,000.
Where is the $400,000? No, where is that?
Page 32.
Page 32?
No, what's up? These things that we're voting on. What we're voting on tonight is 12 articles we passed so far. The total amount of the budget, is it with any reduction in surplus?
Right, so
It's not an article with that figure in it.
we don't vote on
So
that.
it's just left up to whoever to make that decision at some point, unless we here vote to reduce it by the $600,000 that Tammy recommended.
Then you're not going to have a balanced budget. You voted, everybody approved.
And then you will have to make adjustments within the budget to do that, or take $600,000 from surplus to give you enough money.
We put 400 in surplus if you looked on page 32.
You might have it there, but in what we voted tonight, what the money is being spent, that $400,000 is not there.
It is there. If it wasn't there, then this article you're now voting on would be $400,000 more.
Right. And that's what Mrs. Murray's trying to do is suggest we would move more money forward to bring that local additional request down. That's what Mrs. Murray's trying to do. And just to complement that, I think it's a worthy conversation. The concern that I would have, if we already are saying we're going to move $400,000 forward, and we're going to move another $600,000 forward, which is what we'd be saying by making that adjustment in this article, you're going to set your school district up 1 year from now to not have the funds available to meet that carry forward demand that will be existing in the budget. So then you'll have to make $1 million in tax, or raise the local next year by $1 million. And I couldn't recommend that.
Well, I think people are getting confused. In here, it does not actually state the 400,000, or I would have made an amendment to that. I know you have it in your budget, but it doesn't actually state that it's being funded by the 400,000. Anyway, in the warrant articles, I think a board member wanted that put in, but it was not put in. The other part is that you have warrant articles that you're asking for reserves of 200,000. So I listened to you guys say we're going to put reserves, and if you read those warrant articles, are going to be expended in this next year's budget, which is $200,000 that you're going to add to this budget. So when if you set those reserves up, you're adding $200,000 for you guys to spend in the 2021 budget is how those warrant articles are read. So I find it funny that you say you can't take $200,000 and use it to offset this, because taxpayers certainly can do that. That's why this article is here.
Yes.
Instead of putting them into a reserve for them to be spent this year or the year coming.
I'd be glad to address the article, reserve account question when we get to those articles. Or do you want me to do that?
Well, I just want the people to realize that there is a reserve, and you are looking to take $200,000 out of the money that Ms. Allows was talking about. That's where that money is going to come from, correct? So I'm saying, why are we not taking money, instead of putting them in a reserve and spending them next year, why are we not just taking that money on this local share here and reducing that down now?
Because
And let these taxpayers have a break, like you guys run your school, try to make everybody happy, let's all get along, and I don't understand why we would be adding $200,000 to that budget. If that's what's happening, we're gonna be able to spend it.
So, two things. One is, I think what we're talking about is the local additional Article 13.
Correct.
And what amount that will raise from the locals in addition to that EPS Article 12. That's what we're talking about.
Yep.
And what I'm suggesting is $600,000, you want to reduce that line item, is excessive. That's my advice and my opinion to the public. So,
But you could make cuts, because honestly, the school board has the authority. At that point, if the local share is only required to pay that amount, you guys don't have to spend that whole budget. You guys can actually make some cuts in the budget.
my comment to that is I think we worked pretty diligently to make over $400,000 worth of cuts. That's the budget we presented right now. This overall budget down $120,000. We've been cut $220,000 in state aid.
Well, no, that number's not correct either, but I guess we'll discuss that at a different time. It's actually $165,000 according to the state that I spoke to today. I don't know where you got that other $400,000. That's not what they told me. But anyways, the other piece of it is that you are going to get relief from federal and state regarding COVID. You did not put the article that's been in here for over 20 years. I've been on this board a long time. I know what the warrants say. The article to allow the taxpayers to get any subsidies from the state and everything is not in this warrant article this year.
These are the warrant articles we paid our attorneys to write for us.
Correct.
I will present it to you tonight.
But is it not correct that it is not in here this year?
Because every school district is anticipating a curtailment. That COVID money is federal money, it can't go in our budget. So we're anticipating Madison, every school board is.
But if you got the money from the federal and the state for
COVID. And if you get that money, it cannot now, because you don't have that warrant article in there, go back to your taxpayers.
It can't anyways, it's federal money. If we can't use it to give
So
it
your
back to
budget
the
will be a
taxpayers.
shortfall, but if you're getting that money and you can't give it back to the taxpayers, you should be able to spend that on your budget.
Not on this, not on local, this is the local fund budget.
I'm not, okay, but you can spend it on your overall budget. So, yes, if the federal gives you guys money,
But it can't be part of this local budget.
it's not, but you're gonna have money to
To
spend.
spend, but not on this
Okay,
budget.
so when you say we're in dire straits in that figure, you are gonna get money, so that's not really dire straits if you don't.
I can't argue with citizens.
Okay. Let's see if we can wrap it up here. Yes, sir.
Mr. Tracy, I'm hearing a lot of speculation. Can you tell me how much we have in our savings account now?
The amount that was last audited, Mr. Duncan, last year, was $825,976.
So what percentage of the total budget should be in our savings? What's recommended by whoever you go to for recommendations?
The law would suggest 3%.
3%?
And our accountants tell us it's 10. Auditor, which have told us 10%.
So you're at 8% now, 6% now? Does that include the $600,000 that it's being suggested that we pull, that we take out of the budget?
Maybe I'm not understanding. Can you restate the question? I'm sorry.
Okay, so we have about 6% in there now, about $600,000, is that correct? We have 800,000?
825,000 was last audited last year.
Okay. So what do we have in there now? We've spent some of that, we've moved that around.
200,000 into this current budget. And then, at the end of the conclusion of this school year, which has not yet been audited, we're projecting at 600,000. But it's not 600,000 plus 8. It's a total of 600,000.
Okay, so this $600,000 decrease that's being discussed, where does that come from and how does that impact the savings?
What would happen then is if we move this one time, if we were to reduce that amount, then you would have the $400,000 that we've already projected to use from that fund balance. And that additional 600 would be $1 million. We would be moving forward with the operational budget from the district's savings account. That would be great for 1 year because it would do exactly what Mrs. Murray is saying, that it would reduce that local share by that amount, that local additional in Article 13 that we're talking about.
By $600,000 divided by 4, by the 4 communities, right?
Correct, and it's based on funding.
Sure.
Equally distributed.
So can you tell me what those numbers look like per taxpayer? How much are we going to be essentially, it isn't fair, I know, to ask this question, but I would like that answer. When I go on the board, if you would be so kind, if we cut $600,000 from the total budget, what does that do per taxpayer, per community?
We would have to rerun that through the funding formula.
Can you do that at some point? I mean, there's no big hurry, but I'm curious.
Yes.
Can you tell me what kind of conditions the school is going to be starting up in September under? What kind of conditions are we? I've heard things like double sessions. I've heard things like 16 kids per bus. I've heard things like sterilizing the bus twice a day. I've heard all kinds of stuff. We don't have any, at least I don't have any grasp on what that cost may look like. Do you?
There's conversation from all of those things. I just met on a Zoom meeting today with the Commissioner of Education at the Department of Education, who gave us no concrete, that's not the program, the last one. To give us no concrete answers, and it's simply because, the words that came out of her mouth were, look at Florida and Arizona, who had bursts of new COVID cases. I know Maine is not Arizona, Florida, but in short, we don't know. I'm hopeful, based on the risk factors in our area, our region, and county, that we will have an opening, some kind of opening in person. I'm hopeful of that. What that specifically looks like, I don't know. I can't imagine, as I said earlier, any condition where I'm going to need less staff, less classrooms, less of anything in September.
So if this $600,000 gets cut from your budget, what happens to education? I heard a lot of squalling about $4,000 for books, and most of the kids I know use a computer when they read books now. So we were concerned about $4,000 impacting children's education, and now we're talking $600,000, and we don't even know what the hell they're going to be doing to go back to school.
My biggest concern is that and I know my job, I think, people might not always view the superintendent as in the best of light, but my job is to secure this organization. I've worked very diligently for free, going into 4 years to do that. This motion would drastically affect, I think, negatively, the work that we've done to put the district in a financially stable position. Here's why. There is conversation about curtailment. Last I heard about curtailment, and everybody wants to know what that is. We have funding from the state every month. $300,000 to $400,000 of subsidy comes in every month to pay the district's expenses. If they said, let's look at what happened in 2007, which was a June curtailment. So the June curtailment was withheld. And if that were to happen in RSU 74, that's $300,000 to $400,000 that we'd have to make up somewhere that wasn't funded. So I would hate to put us in a situation where we just don't have I've talked across the districts and municipalities about, I'd love to be able to put a roof on without having to borrow money. I'd love us to be in a position where if there are crises or what have you, we can fund ourselves for a month or two.
So let me ask you, excuse me for interrupting, but if things go smoothly and you have $1 million next year in a reserve account, is there any need for $1 million? And if there isn't, can you lower the budget, thus lowering the demand on communities?
Yes, and I know there may be some questions because there are new faces out there. We are bringing forward this year the lowest increase I've ever brought forward.
And what percentage is that, just to refresh my memory?
It's a negative. The budget's down 100. Page 32, the overall budget's down $124,000. So it's a negative 1.8% increase. So I think we've worked pretty hard to get there, and people aren't working hard, we're just going to get back in. So I think I understand now.
Well, I've heard that towns have given rebates to their town members, and that's a great thing to do. But when you got to ask the school to make that money up, I think it's inappropriate.
Well,
in my opinion.
I can't comment on that.
No, but I can, and I think it's inappropriate because the money has been raised essentially. It's part of the cost of doing business, and if you're not squandering it, then I think it's inappropriate to come in here and ask for a $600,000 rebate on this budget. I just think it's inappropriate. So, with that said, what would be the impact on educating our students if $600,000 is pulled out of this budget?
We would have zero money in the unassigned savings account in the event of fiscal needs.
You would have zero money. If the roof caved in, you would have zero money to repair that. If a bus broke down, you'd have zero money.
If we spend every dollar and cent as we've allocated.
Okay, thank you.
I think there's another question.
But isn't there a reserve, basically go from the reserve
We're hopeful of putting $200,000 into reserve. Yeah. And we have to spend those on what we earmark for those reserves for. Yes, ma'am.
Good evening, Mr. Hagan, Mr. Tracy. I'm extremely confused. I didn't realize we had 1.2 million in a Cayman Islands bank account. But I haven't been to all the budget meetings. I don't have the binders that you guys have. That's probably got a lot of budget talk in it. I want to know how the board voted on this budget. What was the vote? I assume the board had to have a vote on the budget that we are voting on tonight. Do we know that number of how the board voted? I assume these people...
This is Durham, do you have that number?
When I say that, I'm talking to most of these people probably know the budget way more than I do and most anybody out here does. You sat in all those meetings. What was the vote for the school board?
When they signed the warrant, it was 11-3.
11-3? 11-3. So 11 of the board members that represent our towns voted in favor of the budget that we're looking at tonight as is, right?
Yes, sir.
My next question, you jumped on Larry's thing there. It says, I wanted to know this overall budget compared to last year, and you said it's actually down 124,000. And I think I have to correct you, Mr. Tracy. I'm going to enjoy this moment. It should be down 130,000 because didn't we take out 6 something for the principal? So we're down $130,000 from last year's budget. We're down $130,000 from last year's budget. I'd be curious to know how many school districts can say that we are down $130,000 from last year's budget.
Well, I can answer for the 15 regional ones, and most of them are bringing an increase.
Are bringing an increase. We're going down $130,000. And I just have one more quick question. Is it possible, and you already alluded to this a little bit, I mean, Larry talked about the extreme of the roof caving in, but can you give some examples, and maybe if administration is still here, could give some examples of what are potential money issues that come up throughout the school year that none of the 15 board members or the superintendent anticipated?
Yeah. I don't know if there's an administrator who wants. There's an administrator in the other room.
Oh, just employer. And so if we have a zero budget, we couldn't deal with that.
I could give you just a couple off the top of my head. I know our legal fees were up this year. I know, we spent a little more on graduation because we had to pull off some COVID. So that, if you talk about COVID savings, there were some increases such as those. So those would be some kinds of additions that we didn't anticipate. Is Aaron, do you want to add?
If we had to replace the air tank boiler right now with a boiler, it'd be over $100,000. The roof of the tank would be close to $165,000. The roof, not this roof because it's not the almost flat roof here would be close to $300,000. And I'm hoping that nothing happens because, and I pay taxes in this town. And I'd just like to say with the COVID going on and all the DOE stuff and everybody else jumping on board and sending me messages every week. I hope none of them are true about transporting kids. Every third seat we can put a kid. It's a lot. Sanitizing everything. I mean, you're talking more staff or losing some staff during the day that I'm going to be able to do cafeterias. They're going to have to be sanitizing buses all the time after every kid gets off playgrounds. As it stands right now, next week that could change. It changes a lot.
Any further question or comment in regards to the amendment?
It's late, we're all tired. But Matt's not having enough, so I need you to put your pinky cap on it. Don't be big forever. How 2 plus 1 doesn't equal 3. 824,000 plus 600,000 does not equal 0. 824,000 without the extra 600,000 does not equal 0. So can you help me comprehend where you got 0?
Okay. Yeah.
So 825 is what we ended with last year. We are roughly, very roughly anticipating ending this current year unanticipated of 600. So if we take an additional 600,000, that's the zero, because you're now taking it away in our savings.
No, we're talking about here. Anticipated 600,000 does not hit those costs. Coming back to the people, that the students who the majority of them are struggling to keep bread and milk on the table right now. And the school saying they want $1,000 in savings for gas. I don't see anywhere in here where you guys took any of that 800,000 to try to help offset tax. I heard you say it were, but it has to be yes, and it's not. So the question is again, if the 600,000 is coming this way, if we could get up, turn around and go back, you still have that 825,000.
No, because the 600,000 that we're talking about adding this year includes that 825. It's not 825 plus 6.
But that's what you guys are saying.
No, that's not what you said.
She said that last year we had $825,000. And we're anticipating another 600.
Not another.
Including.
In the last year, how did we have
Can you speak into the mic?
What date was that 825,000?
June 30th, 2019.
Okay, and we're now talking about the end of June 2020. So that $825,000 was there for a year before the extra 600,000 comes along.
It's not extra.
How is it not extra? If it's surplus from the budget, which is what you guys said, if it's surplus from the budget, then how is it not additional money? All I'm saying is, if I look at my checkbook from a year ago, and my savings account had $50,000, and I didn't touch it, and this year I put in income tax return another penny, that it added.
There are expenses that occurred all through the year, there are revenues that occurred, and then we're taking 400,000 to offset the total amount. And we also want to put.
Is where is that?
Okay, when you say where is it in here, there's statutes, what these warrant articles need to look like.
Oh, I
We can't do them any way we want. So if you look on page 32, under the revenue section, there's the 400,000.
Okay, we used to see the actually article where it says total amount raised less X amount cost.
And I'm telling you, those are statutes, the way those are written. We can't just pick and choose.
I'm not saying you can't, I'm saying I've done it. I've been in your position. It's not an argument. I think everybody here deserves to understand why 825,000 a year ago turns into zero.
I've got a couple quick comments about the discussion that I want to ask about a particularity in Article 13. So, Mr. Tracy, I believe you said the law says we should have 3% of the school budget in reserve. The budget's a little over 10 million, so we ought to have a little over 300,000 in reserve. Why are we talking about the fact that there might be 600,000 or 825,000 or a million if the law says? So, Well, I don't want an answer. I don't need a reaction. That's just one thing. Also, I was surprised because several times you said that we expect to have $600,000 extra, and if we use the $600,000, that this, if we incorporate this amendment, if we vote for it, and we have minus $600,000, we'll have zero. And then at the end of that discussion, a board member says, well, we also have an additional $200,000 in. It's just a little surprising. Okay, so those are my comments. My question is that number 1 in the second paragraph of Article 13 says the cost of maintaining student-teacher ratios. What is the student-teacher ratio in the high school?
Approximately 11 to 1.
11 to 1. Does that suggest that the school is being significantly underused? There are 186 students here, and I believe it was built for 445 students. So somebody was talking about Garrett Skank earlier, maybe being underused. If there's a school that's being underused, it's the high school. And if you look at the math MEA scores in the high school, they are 22%, which is shocking. Whereas at Garrett Skank, they're 42%. So if we're thinking about closing the school, and I don't necessarily agree with that, but if we are, this is the school to close. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
I hear you're gonna have curtailments for the school, but you're also gonna have them for the town. So when you say you're not gonna get subsidy from the state, neither is the town. We're all in the same boat, guys. We're all doing the same thing. These towns have to cut the school a check. So when your curtailments hit, the town's also having curtailments on this whole issue also. So I understand what you're saying. I do agree you guys need to have money in here. My $600,000 was exactly what you guys were using. You guys were using $400,000 to offset the budget and another $200,000 in reserves. That's $600,000. Now it doesn't seem to come to zero when you're doing it, but it comes to zero when I say I want to take it from the local share. So something doesn't add up there. If you guys can take $600,000 out of those reserves this year, $400 to offset this budget, and $200 to put into reserves, and I'm saying take $600,000 out of the local share to give us all a break so everybody can still make their payments. It's the same money, so you guys don't come to zero with $600,000, but when I say $600,000, it comes to zero. So I guess maybe I need a. My intent is not to make you guys.
1.2, right? Because we've already used 600. So when you're saying another 600?
You use 6. I wanted 6 for the local share. That is the time to do this because this is coming from the local share. So if I understand what you're saying, so if I need to amend it to be.
We've already allocated the 400,000 carry forward in this local additional amount. We've already done that, so.
So I mean, if I didn't, that would have been 400,000.
To the locals here.
Okay.
So we've already reduced.
You've done that, but you can undo that also.
You could undo it, public.
Correct. So we can say, don't do your 400 and let's do 600 under the local share. And then you guys figure as a board where to cut. It's the same 600,000.
It already before.
It's coming out as giving the local share a break. If the 600,000 is reduced on the local share, and you guys are doing 600,000 to do 200,000 in reserves and 400,000 over here, it's the same number.
But you're approving expenditures that are 600,000 more, and you don't have a balanced budget.
So you've approved through your articles up to right now, you said this is what
Correct.
the public's going to support if it makes it a referendum. These are going to be the school district's expenses. But then you want it unfunded by 600,000.
But the locals have the right to be able to fund what they want. So when you say unfunded, the taxpayers have the right to fund what they can afford.
Yes, ma'am. I'm just saying what she's trying to tell you is that your revenues won't meet your expenses if you reduce that number by 6. You're right. It would wipe out the savings account if we wouldn't. we would have to do a transfer with the auditors and so forth.
Well, what I would like to see is I would like to see 600,000
Total.
total on the local share
Then you
on
need
this
to-
article.
Yeah, then you need to, somewhere in the budget, reduce it by 600, because right now,
You'd have to
it
reduce
went
it.
down with the expenditures.
You're gonna have, you'll have to cut the 600 back in these articles. Cut it from the expenses, cut it out of wherever.
But the local share, if this was reduced on what I amended, this is all you could build these towns.
Correct.
You guys at that point, so I don't really have to really touch on those articles. They
will not approve a budget that has the state, the Department of Education. You can't come in and say the locals approved terms of the round number, $1 million budget. And then when I report the expenditures that are approved of 400,000, they're gonna say, well, it doesn't balance. And we can't say, oh, we got this money in savings, but.
Why can't you? The board can use that money at any time.
It can, but it needs to, but the expenditures are still more of what they approved in revenue. You have to approve these.
But you could use them. The school board could vote to use them. And how do you know it's going to be more? Because every year you're rolling over an undesignated funds. So how do you know it's going to be more? And I hear on the whole COVID thing and the bus and all that stuff, I understand with new staff, but you are going to get federal funds that are not going to come back to the taxpayers. So you guys are going to have that money also. And I understand when it comes, I don't know, towns in the same predicament.
But I'm on daily Zoom meetings, we can't use that COVID money just to fund things that are always been funded in the budget. You have to prove that they're additional.
So when they're saying there's extra staff to wipe those buses and to separate the kids and all that stuff, I know you guys are great people. I've just done it for the town. You're going to put that all on that little COVID expense, and that's going to get those down.
But not $600,000. You still have to, everybody just.
Okay, I'd like to amend my motion.
What's that?
Can I amend the motion because I made it? Please, it'll take care of this pretty quick.
I hesitate to add an amendment to an amendment.
But
If you're going to amend the motion so that it will clarify some of the issues that I hear here,
She withdraw her motion.
the best thing to do is to withdraw your motion on the amendment, get your second to agree to withdraw that motion, and then we start over.
I withdraw the motion that I made.
Okay?
Second.
I'll make a motion to reduce the local share by 200,000 on Article 13.
So your new number is
200,000.
1,700,000?
Yep.
723,105, is that correct?
Yep.
Okay. That's your new amendment. Is there a second to that amendment? Amendment is seconded.
And my reasoning to doing that is because if you look at the articles behind it, they have no problem putting $200,000 in the reserve account, and they're going to spend it this year. So that's where the $200,000 needs to go back to the taxpayers.
Okay. Any question on the new amendment? Yes, ma'am? No?
I have a question, but I can yell at you. Mr. Treasury, what is that amendment? But, I mean, believe me, no one here wants to pay more taxes, including me. But what is that going to do to us 1, 2, 3 years down the road? My concern is looking at if I was simplifying all of this for my own little checkbook. It doesn't sound great, so now I want your opinion.
In my mind, what we were going to recommend, and when we get to the reserve accounts, we can talk about this. My recommendation was to basically use 600,000 in carry forward for the taxpayers and reserves in the event that we couldn't pay bills next June because of a curtailment. Okay? That was my rationale, the recommendation, and was approved by the board. If the community supports Mrs. Murray's reduction, you'll be hearing me not recommend making those reserve accounts. Because I do not and I cannot support a financial situation where I can't see beyond a year. If you support this motion and we don't do the reserve accounts, I can live here another couple of years and get you a budget, because I think that will allow the operation of the school district at least for a couple of years. And that I never want to bring forward or offer forward in the operational budget more money than we have in the savings. So if the total 600, which is what ultimately on page 32, what you're doing right now ultimately for our accounting purposes is you're changing the amount of money on page 32 of the balance forward of the 400,000 and you're making it 600,000. That's what inadvertently Mrs. Murray's motion is doing. If the audit comes out clean, it doesn't always come out clean, but if it comes out the way we hope it to, then that's probably a reasonable one. I could support that for a year. I don't know what that means for next year, but I will also, if you do that, I'm going to recommend you don't do the reserve accounts when we get to those in a moment. And again, my rationale for that is so that in the event of crisis, you folks still have a school district. Right? Next year, when if a town can't make their assessment payment, if the state can't make their assessment payment, the school district's intact. Your schools will be intact for at least the budget season. So,
and I just have a comment, and everybody keeps a lot of people keep talking about this money that the federal government is going to get. Well, with the federal government, I think we need to see it before we spend it. So I don't think you can count on that at all. I know people think you can, but I'm sorry, until you get it in your hand, I wouldn't count on it.
Yes, ma'am.
I think that money you can count on, you can almost go to the bank with it, but to reflect on what Mr. Tracy said about if we do this, it's going to wipe the account out. Just to give you folks an idea of what's going on, just the town of Anson, I don't know about all of the other towns, how you are, but the town of Anson, if we're going the way we are right now, paying the payments that we have to make to the school district, and then we have the huge payment that has to go to the county, we will be zero by September. We're not talking a school year. We're talking less than 3 months. So you all want to take that into consideration before you decide what you're going to vote. This is serious stuff, and I know you guys are doing the best that you think you can to put this budget together. This is serious. That you can't make payments on something that you don't have the money coming in for, and I'm afraid we're not going to be having the money coming in to make the payments just to be able to sustain the budget that you're presenting us.
Yes, sir.
Can I make a motion that we go on, can we move the motion?
Move the question. Second. That ends the discussion, the vote. Okay.
Sir.
We need to vote on the amendment, yes.
Point of clarification.
Yep.
We're voting on the amendment.
Yes.
So would you read the amendment so we can all understand exactly what we're voting on?
We're going to vote the amendment, and if the amendment passes, then we're going to go and vote on Article 13 as amended. That one will be a written ballot. I'd like to vote on this one by hand show. There's no more discussion about it. I'm just trying to explain what we're going to do. Okay? So, all in favor of the amendment reducing. I don't understand what you're trying to do.
He made a motion to move the question.
Yes.
Vote on that. Vote on that.
Moving the question. The question on the floor is the amendment, not the article.
Then a motion was made to move the question. We have to vote on moving the question. Just because one person said they wanted it doesn't mean that's it. We need to vote on whether we all want to move that question forward.
Thank you. All in favor of moving the question, please signify. Those opposed? Question when we move. Now we can vote on it. Thank you, Elaine. Now we can vote on the amendment. The amendment simply reduces the amount of money in Article 13 from $1,923,105 to $1,723,105, simply a $200,000 reduction. All in favor of the amendment, please signify. Those opposed? The amendment carries. Now, we're going to vote on the article as amended. What?
You'd like to have a count of that last vote?
All right. We'll go back. All those in favor of the amendment? What?
Are there 7 people that want to challenge this?
What are you voting on? The 7 people agree with him on questioning the vote. All right. Thank you, 7 people. Thank you for getting me back on course here. Now, all in favor of accepting the amendment in the amount of $1,723,105, please hold your card up, and I need some counters. I need 2 counters. Okay? Hold your card up. Yes, we're going to accept that, or no, we're not going to. Got your number? Hands down. All of those who oppose accepting the amendment, please put your card up and hold them up. Everybody counted?
Well, I had 23 to 26.
I can't hear you.
23 and 26, sir.
23 yes, 26 no. Is that what I heard?
23 yes, 26 no.
So the amendment fails. 26 yes and 26 no. What?
I counted 23 and 26 too.
You questioning that vote? Are you questioning the vote?
Their numbers don't match.
They can't be the same number twice.
We are questioning it, yes, and the numbers come out. It
All right, would somebody like to make a motion that they don't agree with that vote? And then you can do another vote? Motion? Is there 7 people who agree with that young lady up there in the back? Okay. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to ask you to stand. All in favor of accepting the amendment, please stand and stay standing until we get an accurate account. Hold your hand up. Do your exercises over there. This is the yes vote if you're in favor of the amendment.
What if we just called out numbers and said, it's not fun. It's disgusting.
May be seated. All who want to vote no on the amendment, please stand. All set? What's your numbers? Thank you. May be seated.
Yes and 26 no.
23 yes and 26 no. Is that what I heard? Yes, ma'am.
I would like to make a motion to amend that to $1,823,105 and taking that extra $100,000 out of Article 17 and 18.
We're dealing, we can't move on. Okay, the motion is made to amend the article to read in the amount of $1,823,105. Is that correct? Is there a second to that? Motion has been made and seconded. Any discussion on the amendment? You ready to vote? All in favor of the amendment being $1,823,105. $105. Please signify, hold your card up, hold it up high, till we get a good solid count. Down hands, all of those opposed to the amendment. Put your hand up, hold it right up till we're going to get a solid count. Got your count? Hands down. Bring the number right up here.
They said they need to do the yeses one more time. You need to do the yes.
I have 24, 27, 23, 27. So that's usually the ones we're
Yeah. 23 to 26 or 27?
27. Both have 27 no's.
27 no.
I had 24 yeses and you had 23 yeses.
Either way, the motion.
The motion fails. Back to the original article.
Accept the original article as written.
What's that?
I'd like to make a motion to accept the original article as written.
Motion to accept the original article as printed. That motion is on the floor already. We were voting on the amendment. If you're ready to vote on the original article, Article 13, in the amount of $1,923,105, now is the time that you can get up and exercise, because this is a written ballot. So everybody should have a ballot. Go to your respective clerks. They will check you off the name, ballots in the box. Okay, the result of your written ballot on Article 13. I'll give you the towns and then I'll give you the total if my total is right. Town of Solon voted yes, 7, no, 1. Town of Emden, yes, 7, no, 4. Town of Anson, yes, 7, no, 14. Town of New Portland, yes, 5, no, 5. Total yeses are 27, total noes are 24. Article 13 passes as printed. Now, my question is, nothing changes in Article 14. Okay. Article 14, to see what sum the regional school unit will authorize the school board to expend for the fiscal year beginning July 1, 2020 and ending June 30, 2021 from the regional school unit's contribution to the total cost of funding public education from kindergarten to grade 12 as described in the Essential Programs and Services Funding Act. Non-state funded school construction projects, additional local funds for school purposes under the Maine Revised Statute Title 20A, Section 15690, unexpended balances, tuition receipts, state subsidy, and other receipts for the support of the school. School board recommends $10,379,121. What is your pleasure under Article 14?
Accept as written.
Motion is seconded to accept Article 14 as printed. Any discussion?
We need to amend that to $10,372,521 to reflect the $6,600 that was cut from the budget previously.
Is that number?
That's $10,372,000. So it's $10,372,521.
$521.
Yes, sir.
$10,372,521. Is there a second to that? Motion has been made and seconded to amend Article 14 from $10,379,121 to $10,372,521. Any discussion on the amendment? Are you ready to vote for the amendment? All those in favor of voting for the amendment, changing the number from $10,379,121 to $10,372,521. All in favor, please signify. All opposed? Motion carries. The amendment carries. Now, Article 14 as amended. All in favor of accepting Article 14 as amendment, please signify. Those opposed? The motion carries. Article 15, to see what sum the regional school unit will raise and appropriate for the school tuition program with authorization to expand any additional incidental or miscellaneous receipts in the interest and for the well-being of the school nutrition program. The school board recommends $10,000. What is your recommendation under Article 15? Motion has been made. Is there a second? Motion has been made and seconded to accept Article 15 as printed. Any question?
Why are we raising $10,000 here when we do not raise any money in the regular budget?
Yeah, thank you. Good question. We typically, the school nutrition program is self-sustaining, pretty self-sustaining in this district, but we are what's known as the CPP, or a community eligible program, and based on the guidelines this year, there has to be a contribution from the local contribution towards that program. So we put in a minimum amount of $10,000.
Any other question or comment? Yes, sir.
There's no legal requirement for the number. We did shift an employee of the central office over to school nutrition, so we anticipate an increase of having to pay those hours out of school nutrition.
But out of the local share, because this is going to come out of the local share?
This is above and beyond the local share.
So the locals are going to have to pay that $10,000. So it could actually just be $500 or $1,000. Correct? Is no guideline that says it has to be 10,000?
I'm not aware of a guideline, but we made the shift based on what we believe we're going to need to pay for the services that the person in my office does for school nutrition. So that's
They
what-
weren't getting paid for that?
They were, but it's come out of the local, the system administration line, and we moved it to school nutrition, so we're going to pay that out of this amount.
Because more of Tammy's time is being spent on the food service.
So we appropriated it to school nutrition, we're going to charge it off to school nutrition, but then we're going to ask.
And how much is in the school nutrition account? About 100,000?
That's what it is.
Yes.
So it couldn't have come out of there?
Yes, I mean, yes, that's where it's going to come out of, but what I also just said is that the locals have to be an amount, so what.
But it didn't have to be 10,000?
It didn't.
Any other question or comment under Article 15?
So I'm still confused on why this wasn't included in the regular budget. Is this going to come out of grant money that we receive, or is it coming out of that surplus money that we have? Because you didn't include it in the regular budget, so it isn't in part of the local share. So is that coming out of that anticipated $700,000 to $800,000 surplus we're going to have? Is that where that $10,000 is coming from?
That's additional local money that we will have to charge the towns.
So even though we just voted in Article 13, an amount to be raised, you're now going to add another $10,000 to that amount to be raised by the locals, rather than have put it in the school budget.
We couldn't put it in the school budget, that's what I'm trying to explain. And because we couldn't, we chose an amount of money that was similar to the amount of money that we extracted, pulled out of my office in terms of what we were paying employees. So we said, we're not going to charge the locals 2 hours a day for this employee. We're going to put that in school nutrition, and then we're going to charge that amount. So it's still a cost to you, yes. We're just saying we earmark that amount of hours because that's what we say that we're paying the person to do that work. And then we also simultaneously have this CEP, or the Community Eligibility Programs, the federal guidance that says we have to charge an amount of money. It has to be a contribution from the locals. So that's why we use that amount. Yes, it could be any other amount we want to put in there, but that's what we chose to do based on the rationale I just gave.
I'd like to amend it to 5,000 if we can use any other amount. I'd like to amend it to 5,000.
Any other question or comment under Article 15? Yes, ma'am.
Could you be so kind as to tell me where in the superintendent's line that 10,000 came out of? I'm not finding it.
I don't know if it was a direct wash, like minus 10 plus 10, if you want to clarify that.
Well, if it came out of that person's salary, then it should have been in the salary line, is that correct?
It would have been in business office.
What page, please?
I'm all on page 24.
Okay, I'm on 24.
So if you look at the reduction, it says for the proposed budget, it only shows about a $4,000 reduction.
Right.
You see that?
Right.
But then you have to also take into account increases, salary increases of folks in my office.
Okay, so
you've
you
got the
reduced it
additional-
by 4,000 and she got a $6,000 raise?
No.
No, she
Well, that makes you 10.
No, she didn't get a raise.
No, we're not paying that. We're not going to pay the $10,000 to that employee. The difference in moving those hours out might have been $7,500, let's say. That was what we went through. And I put in a round number of 10,000 to cover those hours. That's how we came up with that number. And so the reduction that you're asking is on page 24, but you have to take into account the increases on people's
Increases meaning salary?
salary increases.
Which is what I said, 6,000.
Just regular negotiated increases.
Yeah.
Not like she's getting paid more hours.
Right.
So benefits and everything, is that what you're saying?
And they're listed.
For 1 year, there's a $6,000, an estimated $6,000 increase with wages and benefits?
No, I think you're still sticking to $10,000.
I certainly am.
Yeah, and that's not the amount.
I mean, I would think that if you're taking it out, it's going to be pretty clear cut.
No, I want to give you the numbers.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm getting a $2,000 raise.
Okay.
Okay, my assistants are getting in the neighborhood of a 3%. And that is the assistants and secretaries of the business office that work in the central office.
And that would be roughly how much?
I can't give you a specific, I'll give you a percentage. And the reason for that is because the difference between the savings on moving those hours out of that line, I'm showing 6,400 was the savings of moving those hours. So $6,400 is what we're going to now charge off to school nutrition.
But if you're doing a budget, a percentage equals dollars.
Correct.
So if you know it's 3%, you must know what the dollar value is. Out of that 10,000. So if I heard you correctly, you're asking for 10,000, but you said you really only needed 7,500, so you're already 2,500 more than what you need.
Yeah,
so there's an extra cushion.
You're conflating or confusing the two numbers on that.
You just said.
We're the same amount of hours, you're right. And we giving you.
Those hours don't add up to the 10,000.
They don't add up to the 10,000.
Right, so I was repeating what you said, that it came out to about 7,500 and you rounded up to 10,000. So you're asking us to put more money in the budget than what you even need because it's only a non-specific amount of money. So instead of saying $500, you up the ante to $10,000.
I think that's one way of looking at it, Mrs. Pierce, I suppose. Thank you.
I think $5,000 is fine.
Any other question or comment under Article 15? Yes, ma'am. I couldn't hear you.
I want to amend this article to $5,000.
Motion has been made. Is there a second to that motion? Motion has been made and seconded to amend Article 15 from $10,000 to $5,000. Any discussion on the amendment? Seeing none, all in favor of accepting the amendment in the amount of $5,000, please signify. Down hands, those opposed. Motion fails. The amendment fails. Back to the original motion. Any further discussion on the original motion of $10,000 under Article 15? Seeing none, all in favor of accepting Article 15 as printed, please signify. Motion carries. Article 16. What? You moved you want another vote?
No, we need the name.
Motion carries, we need to vote.
Doing a good job.
You realize you've gone way beyond my bedtime here, folks. beginning to show. I had all in one favor, all opposed to accepting Article 15 in the amount of $10,000. Thank you. It's still passed. Article 16. Shall the school board be authorized to establish a new operations and maintenance of plant capital reserve fund, to transfer $100,000 from available fund balances to said capital reserve funds, and to expend said funds during the 2020-2021 school year for unanticipated operations and maintenance costs. What is your pleasure? That's a yes or no answer. What is your pleasure on Article 16?
I move no.
You move no. The motion is to move no. Is there a second to that motion? The motion is made and seconded to vote no on Article 16. Any discussion?
Mr. Moderator, I believe that the motion is always supposed to be in the positive and then you're voting. That motion to me is a negative motion and that should not be allowed.
I didn't hear what you said. Are you opposed to no or in favor of no?
Point of order. As a point of order, sir, I believe a motion has to be in the positive, and then we vote the way we feel. And a motion to vote no is not a proper motion.
In this particular article, there's no recommendation on yes or no. So a motion to vote no on this article is in position. Okay. Any further question or discussion? Yes, ma'am.
I guess I would like to know why we didn't put the $200,000 into the budget that we just had to vote on, where you're going to expend it in next year's budget.
Okay, so thank you for the question. The law on this allows school districts in the past to set up reserve accounts that were especially earmarked for a special purpose to be expended at the pleasure of the community. You have to vote on this. This is why they're in front of us. And what the rationale was that we did have a healthy carry forward that we've been talking about half of the evening, that we would use some of that to build these reserve accounts. That's what really the sort of background of 16, 17, and 18. And so, in lieu of hearing that there is a potential for a curtailment, I immediately made the recommendation to the board, and they supported these, building these accounts from the carry forward. So what would happen is, they would be created by you all, and the voters on July 14th. And then, in the event that one of these cost centers, and we're talking specifically about maintenance plan, and this one, $100,000, that if something were to come up that we needed to expend that money, that's what that would be there for, a reserve account to be expended in this school year. My understanding is once that's built, only the school committee can spend it on that purpose. And then if it's not spent in this budget, it's my understanding that that would become carried over again, or the reserve accounts.
No, it would stay, and then there would be another vote to have to
Because it's a
spend it.
designated fund, so it would always stay designated.
Yeah. But the way I read this is, if we were to expend this after this year, we would need a vote on it.
Right, so I'm going to go back to you talking about you having plentiful reserve account, enough to put $200,000 more to the local taxpayers are going to have to put this, well, you're going to pull it out and spend it instead of giving them a tax break. So I find it funny that you need to spend it this year, and if you really needed that $200,000, because the way this warrant article is read, it's going to be spent this year instead of offsetting people's taxes with it. I do not understand why that recommendation would come through a year with COVID is, and you guys are all saying, oh my God, curtailment, but you don't seem to understand that the taxpayers have to pay the school so you guys can get the money. So why you would set up reserve accounts to be spent the same year, reserve accounts are usually capital reserve accounts that are built on year after year. You put a little money in so you can do the roof, but not the way this is written. This is definitely written to be spent this year.
And I think it doesn't mean it has to, the lawyers recommended if we didn't have that language in it, we would have to go back out for a public vote if we did want to spend any of it. So that's the only, within that, this current, the 2021 budget year. So they put that language in there in case we do want to spend any of it. But the intent, I believe, was to build
So
up.
the taxpayers wouldn't have their voice heard if you did want to spend. That's why you put the 2021 in.
I would respectfully disagree with that notion, that we would do something to avoid taxpayer involvement. Since we, just so you know, we had an alternative where we could have had a virtual program tonight, we could have had comment, but we chose, the board chose that it was important to engage the public. So that I just don't want to, again, leave an error with the point of the public. It's my point, and I think our board's to engage you all in this process. So no,
But you can spend this 200,000 in this year's budget.
we could if needed. That's what these
So
reserves
if
do.
it gets spent, the taxpayers at some point are going to pay for that.
It's
Coming out of the
coming out of the
surplus, you
same.
could have offset them. Instead, we're spending it on, I don't know.
But the way it's worded, it has to be spent this year. It isn't that it's going to go into a reserve account to roll over to next year. It says, and set to expend said funds during the 2021 school year.
Correct, but if we don't.
It doesn't say that. It says to put it in a reserve account and to expend, not and or. It says and to expend during this current school year. So at the end of the year, that money goes into surplus.
No, it does not.
Yes, it does, because the way you have it worded here, you're recreating this reserve account for this 1 year that you can use this money. It doesn't say to add it to an existing reserve account to be used at some future time. It says to be used in this current school year. You should have worded the article differently.
Okay.
Any other question or comment?
Where does it say we have to?
And
You're giving
to expend funds during this year.
You're just giving permission, but if we don't spend it, it's still in that account, and then we have to go back to the taxpayers to get permission to spend it.
Yes, sir. Mr. Dunn.
My address is Superintendent Moderator.
Through the mic. Yep.
Understand this. If we approve this and we don't spend it, there's going to be $100,000 in next year.
For that purpose.
For that. If we don't spend it, what happens?
It will remain in that reserve account for maintenance of plant.
And we would come back next year and vote to have another reserve account to be expended in the 21-22 year?
Correct.
We don't use it?
We would add zero to it, or more money to it, if we chose to spend in the next year. So the taxpayers have to give permission to expend it.
What if it's written, it goes in there and it doesn't say 2021?
Because we can't spend money ahead of a fiscal year. I only can operate, a board can only operate within one fiscal year that the taxpayers authorize.
So does that have to say that?
This is what our lawyers gave us for language. I mean, so some people can argue with them, but we pay a lot of money to give us the language.
Yeah. So if we don't spend it, it will be there next year. We will have to be having probably, from what I've seen in the last 5 budgets, the same compensation.
Yes, and I mean, there are other ways to build reserve accounts, or actually not called reserve accounts. We could do a contingency. We could have increased Ms. Agron's budget in a contingency line by $100,000. that would have increased your budget, the local budget, to what, 10.4 million. And then done it that way, added to the budget, and then used that carry forward by that same amount. You could have done that too.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. But that doesn't earmark the money for Federal Reserve.
I think part of the problem is the way it's worded, and I'm not arguing with your attorney. It's that most of us are used to a reserve account before it can be touched, comes back to the town, and they approve. And I think we're objecting to your ability to just use money that could have lowered our taxes without coming back to the town.
Any other comment under Article 16?
You're establishing a new reserve account, and it must be expended in this current year. So if they do not use that $100,000 in this current year, it does not stay in that reserve account, it lapses back into surplus. It's the way you worded the article.
She's correct. The way the article is written is to expend said funds during 2020-2021 school year for unanticipated operations and maintenance costs. You can't change the wording of the article. You can't change the intent of the article once it's printed. Yes, sir.
I absolutely agree with you. For years in this district, we should have had a capital reserve account, and we never did. And it is high time to have one. I don't know if we need $100,000 all at once. And Mr. Tracy, with all due respect, if you'd have put that $100,000 into Miss Avon's account, as you just said, we could have taken the extra $100,000 and added it to the $400,000, and we wouldn't even be having this conversation. And Mr. Moderator, just to be clear, you said the motion is accurate, it is called for. So I want to be sure that when I vote yes, I'm actually voting no. Okay, so we're in Augusta now. Okay, we're good.
Yep. Very briefly, I think that Mr. Tracy is absolutely right in his understanding of this, and the accounting expert is absolutely right in her understanding of this. The article says that the school board is authorized, A, to establish it, B, to transfer, and C, to expend it. It doesn't say they have to do that this year. They're authorized to do it, but it doesn't say they have to. So I think, Mr. Tracy, you're absolutely right in that this money will still be there if you don't spend it, and you don't have to spend it.
Any other question or comment under Article 16? Hearing none. The motion on the floor is to vote no, not allowing the school board, not giving the school board authorization to create an operations and maintenance and plant reserve account. If you're in favor of not allowing the school board to create this fund, you will be voting yes. If you're in favor of this, you'll be voting no. And I appreciate what this gentleman brought up because it stands the article upside down, and I should have caught it, but I didn't. Like I said, I'm way past my nap time. So on Article 16, if you are not in favor of the school board establishing an operation and maintenance plant reserve account, you will be voting yes. If you're in favor of that, you'll be voting no. All those in favor of not allowing the school board to create a reserve account, please signify. Down hands. Those opposed to the motion of not allowing and allow them to create an operations account, please signify. The article passes. Okay, I'm going to make a correction now so we don't get caught in that again. Make a motion to place the article as it is printed on the floor, and then we'll go yes, yes, and no, no. Thank you very much. Article 17. Shall the school board be authorized to establish a new secondary instructional reserve fund to transfer $50,000 from available fund balances to said reserve fund and to expend said funds during the 2020-2021 school year for unanticipated secondary instructional costs? What is your pleasure under Article 17? Somebody make a motion to accept Article 17 as printed and seconded. Any discussion?
Same issue. It's worded wrong. They wanted to be able to have this as a rolling reserve account. Is that what you intend in this one, to be a rolling reserve account to carry over prior years? You should have left out the 2020 to 21 school year. It just said you guys can expend it as needed, but specify a specific year to spend that money on. You didn't. If you left that out, it would have been fine, but it's also, it can't roll over because you have to expend it this year.
Any other?
If you wanted to expend it this year, you should have put it in the budget.
Any other question or comment under Article 17? All in favor of accepting Article 17 as printed, please signify. All those opposed, please signify. The article passes.
What were the numbers?
Motion, what's question?
What were your numbers, your counts?
I can't hear you.
What was your counts that you came up with?
It was 21 yes, 14 no. Article 18. Shall the school board be authorized to establish a new elementary instructional reserve account to transfer $50,000 from available fund balances to said reserve fund and to expend said funds during the 2020-2021 school year for unanticipated elementary instructional costs? What is your pleasure under Article 18? Motion has been made and seconded to accept Article 18 as printed. Any discussion?
Same issue.
Same issue? Any other? Yes.
You keep saying they reduced the budget this year, but you added all these extra costs in there, and the budget actually is going up. Because this money has to be spent.
That money is coming out of the savings account, not additional, that you're,
It's we have a set of money, we have a reserve fund, we have a budget. You guys will boast because you lowered the budget, but yet you're taking money out of the reserve fund that should be in the budget. That's how you lower the budget, by putting these little comments. That's wrong with the budget.
Yep. Yes, yes, you can, yep. At the mic. At the microphone.
Oh, at the microphone.
The expenditures of our budget are down $114,000. Take that one part of the budget. So we are spending this school district, our school district, not this school district, our school district. We all need to remember that. Okay? We all use this school district. We have to teach our kids. We have to educate our kids. We think we're trying to do the best job that we can. Okay, but we're spending $114,000 less than we did last year. Yes, no, we are. Please look at the expenditures.
I'm saying the expenditure page. Okay. I'm not even the person. I'm saying what you did. Well, what you did is on the back end of it, you dipped into the reserve fund.
It's either that, or you can take all that money and lower our taxes for 1 year. Next year, if we spend all of our money that we have saved, next year you're going to have to raise that amount to cover your budget. That's where they balance budget. Okay, so if
It won't be there to roll over.
it won't be there, it's wrong today.
That's what I said 4 years ago. Same thing. It could have been, Mr. Could
But
have been.
instead of putting them in reserve to earmarked for certain things, you're gonna have to spend them on certain things. So you could have offset the local taxpayers' budget by 200,000, but instead, we chose to do reserve accounts in a bad year for everybody. So I agree, this is our district, these are our towns, and so it's not just the school that's gonna take effect of this. So maybe this wasn't the year to set reserves when everybody is in dire straits. But this is the year, I guess, the school board decided to set reserves to be used on the same year. So you know what? That is what it is, and the taxpayers will have to make that decision on July 14th.
Any other question or comment under Article 18? All in favor of accepting Article 18 as printed, please signify. All those opposed? The article passes. 22 yes, 15 no. Article 16, Article 19. Hang on, we're going to get there. I can see the end. Article 19, shall the school board be authorized to transfer amounts exceeding 5% of the total appropriation for any cost center to other cost centers or among other cost centers for the year for 2020-2021 fiscal year, provided that transfers shall not be permitted to increase the authorized total school budget. What is your pleasure under Article 19? Motion is made and seconded to accept Article 19 as printed. Any discussion?
Can you explain this article to me? Because we already voted a line item budget. And are you saying those line item budgets can now be moved to different line items? In these articles that we passed, 2 through whatever?
Yeah.
So now you're asking to be able to transfer more than 5% of those budgets over to it. So you could take 5% out of the maintenance department and move it to the superintendent's department. That's what you want to be able to do. Can you currently do that at all?
3% is the law. Yeah.
3%,
So-
you can do 3% currently.
Yeah, yes.
And you want to be able to increase so you can do more than 5%.
And this article is in here every year.
No, it isn't.
It
This is
wasn't.
a new article.
Can you explain that?
It's a brand new article this year. That would be like me in my town. That would be like me in my town, taking money that was raised for roads and moving it to the fire department because the selectmen felt like it.
Yeah,
That's what it would be. That's what it seems like you're doing here, if I'm understanding this correct.
if I may, Mrs. Ellis, and she could talk about the details of the law on this, because it was a change that obviously is going over my head.
Talk loud, I don't think anybody can hear you.
You've got to forgive me, because it's a new change and new in this article this year. And we've always had the 3% ability to move things as needed. The first year I came here, 4 years ago.
Talk loud.
4 years ago when I came here, my first year here, we had to do an auditor's adjustment. And there were lines that were over. And the auditors come in, so it's not myself or the business office making these recommendations. The auditors come in, they say, over here, you are under here, and you need to do a transfer. And then it goes to the board, and the board has the authority up to 3% to make that to make that change, and then we make it an auditor's adjustment. That's what that is there for now, beyond that.
So Article 1, we voted $3.8 million for regular instruction. Article 2, we voted $1.6 million. So we can take more than 5% out of Article 1 and move it to Article 2?
Yes, so because of all the unknowns with this pandemic, would you like me to finish the explanation? The lawyers recommended, because there are so many unknowns, all school districts have put this in their budgets, and it is new. So we were just following the lawyer's recommendation.
And what's the state law on that? State law, you can do that?
It was 3%.
Municipalities can do that. We raise X amount of dollars for our highway department. We have to spend the money on the highway department. We can't move into recreation.
No.
We can't move into the selectmen.
Correct.
We can't move it here. So why can you do it? We just go to the line item budget.
I'm trying to answer your question. And so, you don't have to. We're asking for you, the communities, to authorize the school board to make these changes.
So why do we have to do that?
What's the cost center, by the way, just for
The
clarity?
cost center is like elementary instruction, secondary instruction.
Item on the budget.
Yes, ma'am.
My question is, you made the comment that your auditor suggested it, that you needed to be changed. So why, if you're doing your budget, you wouldn't have changed it in your budget? So you wouldn't have had to adjust 5%. You should have known, okay, admin's over by 400,000, so I might have to adjust my admin over here, and I can reduce over here. That's just accounting 101. So I don't understand why we have to increase 5% when, to me, we're actually, everybody is paying you guys to do a job, to do a budget. So if my auditors tell me this line wasn't quite right the year before and I need to adjust it, I would adjust it for my budget.
And
Well,
it's not really
he-
there's.
Well, he was saying, you did make that comment that the auditors recommended.
That's what.
For the current year, they're auditing is if something had gone over. I mean, we knew, I knew, it's just the school board has to do a vote to transfer.
So state law is 3%.
Yeah,
And so this district needs to go more than 3%.
every district. It was recommended.
We don't
every
have to do
district.
that.
You don't have to do this.
Because you know what, South Portland might be able to afford it, but
The article before the community tonight is to authorize the board to allow transfers up to the 5%.
right, it's not additional money, but you guys are going to be spending it.
In different, it could.
Exactly. So when your taxpayers are saying, oh, we owe a certain amount for transportation, that's what they expect to be spent. But this is going to allow them to know you guys can spend it over here with. So really, I don't know why we would line item budget if we're going to do something like that. It just doesn't make a lot of sense. You can just switch it around.
Mr. Moderator, can we move the motion?
Any other question? Is that a motion to move the question?
Yes.
Is there a second to that motion? Second to the motion, I need a 2/3 majority vote to move the question. All those in favor of moving the question, please signify. Those opposed? Article 19. The motion has been made and seconded to accept Article 19 as printed. All those in favor of Article 19 as printed, please signify. Those opposed? Somebody shut the lights off, I can hardly see the back of the room here. Article 19 passes 23 yes, 14 no. Article 20. In addition to amounts approved in the preceding articles, shall the school board be authorized to expend such other sums as may be received from federal or state grants or programs or other sources during the fiscal year for school or other program purposes, provided that such grants, programs, and other sources do not require an expenditure of other funds not previously appropriated. What is your pleasure on Article 20? Motion has been made and seconded to accept Article 20 as printed. Any discussion?
I'm assuming this is going to give you permission to spend the federal money when you get it?
Yes.
All right.
Any other discussion or question under Article 20? Seeing none, all in favor of accepting Article 20 as printed, please signify. Those opposed? Article 20 passes, 26 yes, 8 no. Having concluded the business that is laid before the body tonight, all I need is a motion to adjourn. And so now the lights go on. Thank you for your patience.